The candles on Dad's birthday cake flickered like tiny spotlights, illuminating the smirks around the dining room table. 65 candles meant a lot of light, but somehow I still felt invisible as my brother Connor held court, describing his latest ventures in commercial real estate. The Riverside development alone will net us $2 million, he boasted, loosening his designer tie. That's what real business looks like. Concrete, steel, things that matter. That's my boy, Dad beamed, raising his scotch. Building something tangible, something real. I pushed the remnants of my cake around my plate, the buttercream frosting I'd spent hours perfecting now tasting like chalk. Beside me, my sister-in-law Monica nodded enthusiastically. It's so impressive, Connor. A real legacy. Speaking of hobbies, Connor suddenly turned to me, his eyes glinting with that particular brand of sibling malice he perfected over 34 years. How's your little project going, Emma? Still tinkering in the garage? The table's attention shifted to me like a spotlight finding its mark. I set down my fork carefully. It's going well, actually. I just completed the prototype for. She's building some kind of gadget, Connor interrupted, waving dismissively at the family. Spends all her time with wires and circuits, like a kid with a chemistry set. Dad chuckled. Emma's always been the dreamer of the family. Remember when she tried to build that robot in high school? The one that caught fire? My younger brother added, grinning. Classic Emma. It didn't catch fire, I corrected quietly. The servo motor overheated because the school's equipment was outdated. Sure, Connor smirked. Well, at least this hobby keeps you busy. Though at 29, you might want to think about real career plans. Maybe I could get you an internship at my firm. You could do our filing. I have a career, I said. I'm an engineer. Right, working from home on your cute hobby stuff. He turned to the rest of the table. She solders things in our old garage. Very professional. Monica giggled. It's sweet that you have such an interesting pastime, Emma. My book club is the same for me. We all need our little escapes. Leave the real business to the men, Connor announced, draining his wine. No offense, Em, but hardware development is brutal. The big players would eat you alive. Apple, Samsung, these aren't knitting circles. None taken, I murmured, though my fingernails were digging crescents into my palms under the table. Aunt Patricia, ever helpful, chimed in. Well, I think it's wonderful that Emma has something to keep her mind active. Not everyone needs to be a CEO. The world needs all types. Exactly, Dad agreed. Emma's always been our creative one. Let Connor handle the business side of things. I excused myself to get more water, though my glass was still half full. In the kitchen, I gripped the sink edge and breathed slowly. 3 years. 3 years of 18-hour days, failed prototypes, small victories, and large setbacks. All reduced to cute hobby stuff by people who couldn't explain how their own smartphones worked. My phone buzzed. An email from my patent attorney. Final approval came through. Meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. to discuss next steps. Big news, come prepared to celebrate. I stared at the screen, then slipped the phone back into my pocket. Tomorrow. I could wait until tomorrow. Returning to the dining room, I found Connor regaling everyone with stories about his latest acquisition. And that's the difference between playing with toys and building an empire. He concluded, shooting me a pointed look. Impressive, I said, retaking my seat. Sounds like you have everything figured out. It's about vision, he replied, missing my tone entirely. And knowing your limitations. Some people are meant to lead, others to follow. No shame in that. None at all, I agreed. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of Connor's achievements, Dad's praise, and occasional patronizing comments thrown my way. When someone asked about my gadget, Connor jumped in to explain it was something with sensors or whatever, too complicated to explain to normal people. I drove home at 10 p.m., my ancient Honda Civic struggling up the hill to my rental house. The garage door opened to reveal my real-life, workbenches covered in meticulously organized components, walls lined with whiteboards full of equations, and in the center, covered by a protective cloth, the prototype that had consumed 3 years of my existence. I pulled off the cloth and looked at it, small, unassuming, about the size of a smartphone but thicker. To Connor, it would look like a cute black box with ports and sensors. To me, it represented 1,000 147 days of problem solving, 12 patent applications, and a breakthrough in haptic feedback technology that my attorney called revolutionary. But that was tomorrow's story. I worked until 3 a.m., not on the prototype that was complete, but on my presentation materials. If everything went according to plan, I'd need them soon. Very soon. The next morning arrived gray and drizzling. I dressed carefully, not in the jeans and t-shirt my family expected, but in the single designer suit I'd bought with my last consulting check. If you're going to change your life, you might as well look the part. The law offices of Steinberg & Associates occupied the top floor of a downtown high-rise, all glass and chrome, and quiet power. I'd been here dozens of times over the past year, but today felt different. Today felt final. Emma, Richard Steinberg himself greeted me, which was unusual. He typically left client meetings to his associates. Come in, we have visitors. The conference room held 3 people I didn't recognize, 2 men and a woman, all in a kind of understated expensive clothes that whispered rather than shouted success. Emma Hayes, Richard said, meet the team from Apple's Special Projects Division. My heart stopped, then resumed at double speed. I shook hands, proud that mine remained steady. Ms. Hayes, the woman clearly the leader, said, I'm Sarah Chen, VP of Emerging Technologies. We've been following your patent applications with great interest. All 12 of them, one of the men added. Particularly the haptic feedback innovations. Your approach to neural response mapping is unexpected. Unexpected good or unexpected bad? I asked. Sarah smiled. Unexpected in the way that makes our entire R&D department wish they'd thought of it first. Richard gestured for everyone to sit. Emma, they flew in from Cupertino specifically to meet you. They have a proposal. We've tested your prototype, Sarah said, sliding a folder across the table. Or rather, we've tested the prototype you submitted to the patent office. We assume the current version is more advanced. I nodded, trying to process how Apple had gotten access to my submission. Then again, Apple. The applications are significant, she continued. Accessibility for visually impaired users, enhanced gaming experiences, medical diagnostics. Your technology could revolutionize how humans interact with devices. That was the idea, I managed. We'd like to acquire your patents, Sarah said simply. All of them. And we'd like to hire you to lead the integration team. One of the men opened his laptop. Our initial offer is $12 million for the patent portfolio, plus a senior engineering position with a starting salary of $400,000, standard benefits and performance bonuses. The room went silent. I stared at the number on the screen, wondering if I'd hallucinated it. $12 million, plus a job that paid more than Connor made in his best year. That's the initial offer? I asked. Sarah leaned forward. We're prepared to negotiate. Your technology is 3 years ahead of anything we have in development. Frankly, it's 3 years ahead of anything anyone has. We want it, and we want you. I need to think, I said, though my mind was already racing through possibilities. Of course, but Emma? Sarah's expression was serious. Other companies are interested. Samsung has been sniffing around the patent office. Google has made inquiries. We prefer to close this quickly and quietly. How quickly? 48 hours. We'll need your answer by Thursday. After they left, I sat with Richard in his office, both of us slightly stunned. $12 million, he said, plus the job. Emma, do you understand what this means? It means my cute hobby stuff is worth more than Connor's entire real estate portfolio. Richard laughed. Is that the brother you told me about? The one who said hardware was too brutal for you? The very same. Well, I'd say you've survived the brutality quite well. I left the meeting in a daze. $12 million. A position at Apple. Validation that 3 years of being dismissed and diminished had been worth it. But I had 48 hours to decide, and somehow I knew exactly where I needed to spend them. That evening I called Mom. I need to stay at the house tomorrow night, just one night. Of course, honey. Is everything okay? Everything's fine. I just need to use the garage for something. Still working on your project. Connor mentioned you're quite dedicated to it. Something like that. I spent Tuesday refining my prototype, implementing the last few improvements I've been planning. If Apple wanted my technology, they'd get the absolute best version I could deliver. I worked through the night again, fueled by coffee and the knowledge that in 24 hours, everything would change. Wednesday morning came too quickly. I managed 3 hours of sleep on the couch in my childhood home, surrounded by the same tools Connor had mocked just days before. I showered, dressed in jeans and my old MIT sweatshirt, and loaded my prototype carefully into a padded case. At 8:47 a.m., the doorbell rang. I opened it to find a man in an expensive suit holding a leather portfolio. "Ms. Hayes, I'm James Morrison from Steinberg and Associates. Mr. Steinberg asked me to deliver these documents personally. He wasn't one of Richard's usual associates. This was theater, and I appreciated Richard's flair for drama." "Please come in," I said loudly. "Would you like some coffee?" "That would be wonderful," James replied, following the script we'd rehearsed over the phone. I led him to the kitchen, where Mom was already making breakfast. "Mom, this is Mr. Morrison. He's here about my project." "Oh, how nice," Mom said, clearly confused but polite. "Would you like some eggs, Mr. Morrison?" "Thank you, but I can't stay long." He opened his portfolio with practiced efficiency. "Miss Hayes, I need you to review these final documents." Connor appeared in the doorway, still in his pajamas. "Emma, what's going on?" "Who's this?" "This is Mr. Morrison," I said casually. "He's here about my hobby." Connor snorted. "Must be a slow day at the office if lawyers are making house calls for garage projects." James looked up, his expression professionally neutral. "I apologize, but I need Ms. Hayes to focus. This is time sensitive." "Time sensitive?" Connor laughed. "What, did she miss a deadline for the science fair?" "Connor," Mom chided gently, "I'm representing Apple Incorporated in their acquisition of Ms. Hayes' patent portfolio," James said calmly, pulling out documents. "The offer has increased to $12 million as of this morning, and we need a decision." The kitchen went completely silent. Connor's coffee mug stopped halfway to his lips. Mom dropped her spatula. "I'm sorry," Connor said slowly. "Did you say Apple?" "As in Apple?" "Yes. They're quite interested in Ms. Hayes' haptic feedback technology. Revolutionary was the word they used, I believe." I signed where James indicated, trying not to smile at Connor's expression, a beautiful mixture of shock, disbelief, and dawning horror. "12 million, Mom whispered. "Emma, is this real?" "Plus the job offer," James added helpfully. "Senior position, 6-figure salary, full benefits. They're eager to have Ms. Hayes lead the integration team." Connor set his mug down with shaking hands. There must be. Emma doesn't know anything about business. She could be getting scammed." "I assure you, this is quite legitimate," James said. "Steinberg and Associates has been handling Ms. Hayes' patents for over a year. 12 patents, all approved, all groundbreaking. Your sister is quite accomplished." "My little project," I said quietly, meeting Connor's eyes. "My cute hobby stuff." His face had gone pale. "But you said, at Dad's birthday." "I said it was going well. You said I should leave real business to the men." James finished gathering signatures and stood. "Ms. Hayes, congratulations. The funds will be transferred to your account within 48 hours. Apple will be in touch about your start date." After he left, the kitchen remained silent. Mom sank into a chair, staring at me like she'd never seen me before. Connor stood frozen by the doorway. $12 million, Mom repeated. "Emma, why didn't you tell us?" "Would anyone have listened?" I asked. Or would Connor have explained why his real estate deals were more impressive than my tinkering? Connor's face flushed. "That's not." I didn't. "Leave real business to the men," I quoted. "The big players would eat me alive. Remember, I was joking." "No, you weren't. You've never taken me seriously. None of you have. I've been building something revolutionary for 3 years, and you all treated it like a child's science project." Mom reached for my hand. "Honey, we're so proud." "Are you?" Because 3 days ago, everyone agreed I needed Connor to get me an internship, to do filing, in his office. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Connor, who'd been so proud of his $2 million development, was now faced with his little sister's $12 million success. "What does this technology even do?" he asked weakly. "It allows blind people to feel digital interfaces through haptic feedback. It lets surgeons perform remote operations with full tactile sensation. It revolutionizes gaming, education, communication." I shrugged. But sure, cute hobby stuff. My phone rang. Dad calling. I let it go to voicemail. You should have told us, Connor said, sinking into a chair. We could have helped. I have connections. I didn't need your connections. I needed your respect. The phone rang again. This time I answered. You should have told us, Connor said, sinking into a chair. We could have helped. I have connections. I didn't need your connections. I needed your respect. The phone rang again. I answered. Emma. Dad's voice was frantic. Connor just told me. Is it true? Apple? Yes, Dad. But how? When? Why didn't you say anything? I tried, remember? At your birthday dinner, but everyone was too busy laughing about my garage tinkering to listen. Silence. Then, we need to celebrate. Dinner tonight, my treat, the whole family. I have plans, I said flatly. Maybe another time. I hung up. Mom and Connor were still stunned. I need to pack. The movers come tomorrow. Movers? Mom asked. I'm relocating to Cupertino. Apple wants me there next week. I spent the day boxing 3 years of work, alone. Each part labeled, wrapped, archived. Connor hovered, watching more than helping. His questions met with silence or clipped answers. That evening, as I loaded the last box into my car, he stopped me. Emma, I'm sorry. I was an ass. I know. You were always quiet about it, working alone in the garage. I thought. You didn't think, you judged. He looked down. What you've built, it's incredible. Spare me the late compliments. You called it cute hobby stuff, remember? I do. His voice cracked, and I was wrong. I said nothing. The garage lights flickered off behind me, one last click of the switch. You're going to be running projects at Apple. You're everything I wanted to be. No, I'm what you never bothered to imagine I could be. We stood in silence. The driveway stretched between us like a closed book. I'm proud of you, he said. Good, you can keep that pride to yourself. I got into my car. Tell Mom and Dad not to call for a while. I need space. He nodded and I pulled away. I didn't look back. In 48 hours, $12 million would hit my account. In a week, I'd be in Cupertino. In a month, lives would begin changing. But tonight, I had something more important to do. I pulled up Richard's number. Hey, it's Emma. Everything went fine. I want to set up a foundation, with some of the money, for young women in STEM who are told they're not cut out for real work. That's incredible. What do you want to call it? I thought of Connor, the birthday dinner, the years no one listened. The cute hobby foundation, I said, for projects no one takes seriously until they change everything. Richard laughed. Perfect. I'll start the paperwork. I drove toward my real life, left behind a house full of people who didn't see me until it was profitable to do so. My phone buzzed, texts, missed calls, sudden interest. I turned it off. They'd had their chance. Now it was my turn. And I had real business to run.
They handed my brother $320,000 like it was a birthday gift. My name is Wren, and I watched my parents sign over the entire proceeds from our family home sale to my 30-year-old brother Kyson without blinking. Not half, not a portion, all of it. You don't need the money, sweetheart, Mom said, patting my shoulder with that practiced smile she'd perfected over 3 decades of dismissing me. You're so responsible with your savings, but Kyson and Claire, they're starting a family. They need this for their forever home. I stood in the kitchen where I'd made breakfast for everyone since I was 12, watching Dad slide the cashier's check across the granite countertop. The same countertop I'd helped him install during my college summer break while Kyson was finding himself in Colorado. This is incredible, Mom. Dad, thank you. Kyson's voice cracked with emotion as he stared at the check. Claire's going to cry when she sees this. You deserve it, son, Dad said, clapping him on the back. You've been working so hard lately. Working hard. Kyson had been fired from 3 jobs in 2 years and was currently doing part-time landscaping while his pregnant wife supported them both as a dental hygienist. But sure, working hard. What do you think, Wren? Mom turned to me expectantly. Isn't this wonderful? I looked around the empty kitchen. The movers had cleared everything out yesterday, leaving behind only the built-in appliances and the ghosts of 32 years. This was the house where I'd done homework at the kitchen table every night while Mom helped Kyson with his learning differences. The house where I'd painted my own bedroom at 16 because there wasn't money in the budget, but somehow they'd found $5,000 for Kyson's senior trip to Europe. "It's perfect," I said. "Kyson deserves every penny." The words tasted like copper in my mouth, but they smiled like I'd given them exactly what they wanted to hear. "I knew you'd understand," Dad said. "You've always been our practical girl." Practical. That was their word for invisible. After they left to celebrate at dinner, an invitation that somehow didn't extend to me, I drove back to the empty house one last time. I still had the spare key, and the new owners wouldn't take possession until next week. The silence felt different now, heavier. I walked through the rooms where I'd spent most of my life being the good daughter, the helpful daughter, the daughter who never asked for anything because she'd learned early that asking meant disappointment. I ended up in my old bedroom, staring at the wall where my bookshelf used to be. This house had always whispered to me. Even as a kid, I'd hear things, creaking in the walls, settling sounds that didn't quite make sense. Dad always said old houses talked, but these whispers felt different, urgent. I pressed my palm against the wall, remembering how I used to lie awake, listening to the sounds behind the drywall, how I'd told Mom once that I thought something was buried under our garden, and she laughed it off as my overactive imagination. That's when I noticed it, a small gap in the baseboard where the wall met the floor. The movers must have knocked something loose when they removed my furniture. I knelt down and peered into the gap. There was definitely a hollow space behind the wall. I pulled out my phone's flashlight and aimed it into the darkness. Something white caught the light. I worked my fingers into the gap and felt around until I touched paper. It took several tries, but I managed to pull out a yellowed envelope, sealed and slightly damp from years in the wall cavity. The handwriting on the front made my blood stop. For Wren, when you're ready to know the truth. Aunt Prudence. Aunt Prudence had died 5 years ago. She'd been the town historian, obsessed with genealogy and old records. Mom always said she was eccentric, filling Prudence's head with nonsense about the past. I tore open the envelope with shaking fingers. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a hand-drawn map and a note in Prudence's careful script. The soil remembers what people choose to forget. Check parcel map block 13G. The Hopkins land holds more than just memories, dear girl. Some secrets refuse to stay buried. P. I stared at the paper until the words blurred. Then I folded it carefully and slipped it into my jacket pocket. The house had finally stopped whispering. Now it was my turn to listen. The town hall records office smelled like dust and forgotten promises. I'd been coming here for 3 days straight, and Martha, the clerk, barely looked up when I walked in anymore. "Back again, Wren?" she asked, not waiting for an answer. "You know where everything is by now." I did. Parcel maps, zoning records, property transfers dating back to 1892. I'd become intimately familiar with every filing cabinet in this basement office. Prudence's map led me to Block 13G, which corresponded to a section of land that included our family property. But the original parcel map from 1903 showed something that made my hands shake. A small black X marked in the corner of what would later become our backyard. Next to it, in faded ink, unmarked burial, sealed per health dept order 3/15/1903. "Martha," I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. "Can you help me find health department records from 1903? She looked up from her computer, eyebrows raised. "That's going back pretty far. What are you looking for exactly?" "Just some family history research," I said. "My aunt left me some notes." 20 minutes later, Martha returned with a box of yellowed files that looked like they hadn't been touched in decades. "These are the oldest health department records we have," she said. "Most of the really old stuff got transferred to the state archives, but this box got missed somehow." I spent the next 2 hours going through every file. My fingers were black with dust when I finally found it. a health department order dated March 15, 1903, declaring a section of land contaminated by improper burial of diseased livestock and potentially human remains. The order mandated the area be sealed with lime and marked as unsuitable for residential development. The land description matched our property exactly. But here's where it got interesting. Stapled to the back of the original order was a newer document from 1962, a zoning correction notice that reclassified the land as suitable for residential development. The correction was signed by the city engineer and filed under the wrong block number, Block 12G instead of 13G, a simple clerical error that had buried the truth for 60 years. "Martha, can I get copies of these?" "Sure thing. That'll be 50 cents per page." I handed her a $20 bill and watched her feed the documents through the ancient copy machine. Each page that emerged felt like ammunition. That evening, I spread everything across my kitchen table. The original burial order, the misfiled zoning correction, Prudence's map, and a property survey from when Dad bought the house in 1985. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. "Hope you're doing okay, sweetheart. Kyson and Claire are so excited about the house hunting. You should come look at properties with them." I stared at the message for a long moment, then set the phone aside without responding. The next morning I drove to the county assessor's office. If there had been a zoning correction in 1962, there should be a paper trail. Someone had to have been notified. The assessor, a tired-looking man named Bob, pulled up our property on his computer. "Interesting," he said, scrolling through screens of data. "Shows here that correction notices were sent to the property owner in 1987, 1994, and 2001. My stomach dropped. Correction notices for what? Zoning violation. Looks like someone discovered the original health department order was still valid. The residential permit should never have been issued. He squinted at the screen. Says here the notices were sent to... He paused. Cameron Hopkins. That your dad? Yes. Huh. Well, he never responded to any of them. Usually when people ignore these notices, we follow up with enforcement action, but... He clicked through more screens. Looks like the file got marked as resolved in 2002. No enforcement taken. Who marked it resolved? Bob's expression grew uncomfortable. Well, according to this, it was marked resolved by the city engineer's office, but that's unusual. Normally, health department violations require remediation before they can be closed. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Who was the city engineer in 2002? More clicking. Cameron Hopkins. The room went quiet except for the hum of Bob's computer. Is there a problem? He asked. No, I said carefully. Just doing some family research. I walked out of that office with copies of every notice, every correspondence, every document showing that my father had received official warnings about contaminated land and had used his position to bury them. That night, I sat in my car outside Kyson's apartment building, watching him and Claire through their kitchen window. They were laughing about something, probably planning their dream house with Mom and Dad's gift money. I pulled out my phone and called Jamal, my old friend from high school who'd become a real estate agent. "Ren, haven't heard from you in forever. What's up?" "I need to ask you about property disclosures," I said. Hypothetically, if someone sold a house, knowing there were environmental issues they hadn't disclosed, "That's fraud," Jamal said immediately. "Big-time fraud. The buyers could sue for damages, force the sale to be reversed, maybe even press criminal charges depending on what was hidden." I stared up at Kyson's lit window. How big are we talking? If it's environmental contamination, we're talking hundreds of thousands in remediation costs, legal fees, potential criminal liability for the seller. He paused. "Ren, is everything okay?" "Everything's perfect," I said, and for the first time in weeks, I meant it. I waited until 2 a.m. to go back to the house. The new owners wouldn't take possession for another 4 days, which meant I had a narrow window. I parked 3 blocks away and walked through the Hendersons' backyard to avoid the streetlights. The spare key still worked. I slipped inside and made my way to the back door, my phone's flashlight cutting through the darkness. The backyard looked different, empty. Dad's prized garden, where he'd spent every weekend for the past 5 years, stretched across the back corner of the lot. He'd been so proud of that garden, especially the new sod he'd laid down last spring. Best soil in the neighborhood, he'd bragged to anyone who'd listen. Rich and dark. Things grow like crazy back there. I knelt down where the garden met the old oak tree and pulled out the soil testing kit I'd ordered online. The instructions were simple enough. Collect samples from different depths, seal them in the provided containers, mailed to the lab. The shovel I'd brought bit into the soft earth easily, too easily. The soil was loose, almost fluffy, like it had been turned recently. I dug down about 18 inches and hit something hard. Not a rock, something smooth and curved. I brushed away the dirt and aimed my flashlight into the hole. Bone. Definitely bone. And it was big. My hands were shaking as I filled the sample containers, but I forced myself to be methodical. 3 samples from different spots, each labeled with GPS coordinates. I covered the holes and smoothed the disturbed soil as best I could. Back inside, I went straight to Dad's old office. He'd cleared out most of his files, but I knew he kept the important stuff in the fireproof safe behind his desk. The combination was Mom's birthday. He'd never been creative with passwords. Inside the safe were the usual documents, birth certificates, insurance policies, the deed to the house. But tucked behind everything else was a manila folder labeled Property Issues, Confidential. My heart hammered as I opened it. The first document was a letter from the health department dated March 2001, demanding immediate soil remediation and threatening to condemn the property if the contamination wasn't addressed. The second was Dad's response, written on city letterhead, claiming the contamination had been resolved through natural decomposition and soil treatment. Complete bullshit. There was no record of any remediation work, but the third document made my blood run cold. It was a photocopy of a newspaper clipping from 1962. The headline read, "Local worker missing after construction accident." The article was brief. Miguel Santos, 34, was reported missing after failing to return home from his job at the Hopkins property development site. Santos was last seen operating heavy machinery near the rear of the lot. Police investigation ongoing. Someone had handwritten a note in the margin. Case closed. No body found. Family moved back to Mexico. Detective R. Walsh, 8/15/62. I photographed every document with my phone, then put everything back exactly as I'd found it. The drive home took forever. Every red light felt like an eternity. When I finally got to my apartment, I immediately mailed the soil samples with expedited processing. Then I called in sick to work and spent the day going through Prudence's files, which I'd inherited when she died. Most of it was genealogy research and local history, but buried in a box of newspaper clippings, I found more pieces of the puzzle. Another article about Miguel Santos from 2 weeks after he disappeared. Search called off for missing worker. This one mentioned that Santos had been working alone that day, clearing an area for a new foundation. The construction company claimed he'd been told to avoid a certain section of the lot due to unstable soil conditions, but the most damning piece was a letter Prudence had written to the police chief in 1987, 25 years after Miguel disappeared. She'd been researching local history and had discovered the original health department burial order from 1903. She'd connected the dots, the sealed burial site, the missing worker, the house built directly on top of it all. The police chief's response was a form letter thanking her for her civic interest, but explaining that the Santos case was closed and no new evidence warranted reopening it. The police chief in 1987 had been Dad's golf buddy, Frank Morrison. My phone rang. The caller ID showed the soil testing lab. "Ms. Hopkins, this is Dr. Rebecca Martinez from Environmental Testing Solutions. We've completed the analysis of your soil samples." "Already? I just sent them yesterday." "Yes, well, when we see results like this, we prioritize them." Ma'am, I need to ask, are you currently living on this property? No. Why? Because these samples show extremely high levels of organic contamination consistent with decomposing biological matter. We're talking about potentially hazardous levels of bacteria and toxins. This soil would require immediate remediation and possibly evacuation of any structures built on it. I closed my eyes. How hazardous are we talking? If this were a commercial property, we'd be required to report it to the EPA immediately. The contamination levels suggest long-term biological decomposition, possibly multiple sources over many decades. What would happen if someone built a house on soil like this without knowing? Chronic health issues, respiratory problems, potential cancer risks from long-term exposure, and if the contamination source is ever disturbed, say during construction or landscaping, it could release dangerous gases or bacteria into the environment. I thanked Dr. Martinez and hung up. Then I sat at my kitchen table and stared at the evidence spread in front of me. The health department orders Dad had ignored, the missing worker whose body was never found, the contaminated soil samples that proved the burial site was still active, and the $320,000 check my parents had just handed to my brother for a house built on top of it all. My phone buzzed with a text from Kyson. Claire and I found the perfect house, putting in an offer tomorrow. Thanks again for being so understanding about everything. I typed back, can't wait to see it. Then I opened my laptop and began drafting a very different kind of letter. I spent 3 days crafting the perfect letter. Legal language, professional formatting, every document referenced and attached. I sent copies to 5 different recipients: the buyers, their real estate agent, the title company, my parents, and Kyson. The subject line read, Mandatory Environmental Disclosure, Hopkins Property Sale. I hit send at exactly 9 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, then sat back and waited. The first response came within an hour. The buyer's agent called me directly. Ms. Hopkins, I'm Janet Miller, representing the Kowalski family. We received your email about environmental concerns regarding the property we're purchasing from your parents. Yes, I said calmly. I felt legally obligated to disclose what I'd discovered. These are very serious allegations: contaminated soil, potential human remains, falsified health department records. Do you have documentation to support these claims? Everything is attached to the email: soil test results, historical health department orders, correspondence showing my father received multiple violation notices. A long pause. We'll need to have our attorney review this immediately. The closing is scheduled for Friday. I understand. I just wanted to make sure everyone had all the relevant information. She hung up without saying goodbye. My phone started buzzing 20 minutes later. First, a text from Mom. Ren, what is this email about? Call me immediately. Then Dad, we need to talk, now. Then Kyson, what the hell are you doing? I turned my phone to silent and went to work like it was any other day. By lunch, I had 17 missed calls and 43 unread text messages. I scrolled through them while eating my sandwich in the archive room. Mom, sweetheart, there must be some mistake. Please call me so we can sort this out. Dad, this is completely inappropriate. You're embarrassing the family. Kyson, the buyers are freaking out. Their lawyer wants to cancel the whole deal. Do you know what you've done? Claire, how could you do this to us? We already put an offer on our house. I deleted them all and went back to work. At 3 p.m., my personal phone rang. Unknown number. Ms. Hopkins, this is Caesar Nichols, attorney for the Kowalski family. I've reviewed the documentation you provided regarding the property sale. And we've advised our clients to halt the closing pending a full environmental investigation. The title company has been notified, and they're freezing all funds until this matter is resolved. That sounds prudent. Ms. Hopkins, if these allegations prove accurate, we're looking at potential fraud charges against the sellers. Are you prepared for the legal implications of what you've set in motion? I'm prepared for the truth to come out. I see. Well, we'll be in touch. That evening I was heating up leftover Chinese food when someone started pounding on my apartment door. "Ren, open up! We need to talk!" Kyson's voice, high and desperate. I opened the door to find my entire family standing in the hallway. Mom's eyes were red from crying. Dad looked like he wanted to strangle me. Claire stood behind Kyson with her arms crossed, her face twisted with rage. "Can we come in?" Mom asked. "Of course." I stepped aside and watched them file into my small living room. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Kyson exploded before anyone else could speak. "Do you have any idea what you've done? I disclosed information about the property that buyers have a legal right to know." "Legal right?" Dad's voice was ice cold. "You sent confidential family documents to strangers. You violated attorney-client privilege. I sent public health records and soil test results," I interrupted. "Nothing confidential about contaminated land that should never have had a house built on it." "Those health department records were from 1903, Mom said. "Ancient history. You're destroying your brother's future over paperwork from a century ago." "And the soil tests from last week? Are those ancient history too?" The room went quiet. Claire stepped forward, her voice shaking with fury. "We already put an offer on a house. We use the money from your parents as earnest money. If this sale falls through, we lose everything. Maybe you should have done your own due diligence before spending money you didn't have yet." "This is our future," Kyson shouted. "Our baby's future. How can you be so selfish?" I looked around at their faces, angry, desperate, accusatory. The same faces that had smiled and patted my shoulder when they handed him that check. "Selfish," I repeated. "That's interesting coming from someone who just accepted $320,000 without asking if anyone else might need it." "You don't need it," Mom said. "You have a good job, savings, no responsibilities." "No responsibilities," I said quietly. "Right. Because taking care of this family for 30 years doesn't count as responsibility." Dad stepped forward. "Ren, if you don't contact those buyers and retract these allegations, I'll have no choice but to take legal action against you for defamation." I met his eyes. "Go ahead. Discovery should be interesting." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means when your lawyer starts digging into those health department records, they're going to find some very interesting correspondence. Letters you received, letters you ignored, letters you made disappear using your position as city engineer." Dad's face went white. "You knew," I continued. "You've known for 20 years that this house was built on contaminated land. You've known about the health violations, the missing worker, all of it. And you sold it anyway." "That's enough," Mom said sharply. "We're family. Family doesn't destroy each other over money." "You're right," I said. "Family doesn't destroy each other over money." I walked to the door and opened it. "I think you should leave now." They filed out in silence. Kyson was the last to go. "I'll never forgive you for this," he said. "I know," I replied, and closed the door. My phone buzzed with a text from Jamal. "Holy shit, Ren. The buyer's lawyer just called me. This is about to get really ugly. You sure you want to go through with this?" I typed back, "Too late to stop now." But honestly, I wasn't sure I wanted to stop anyway. 3 days of silence from my family. Then Kyson texted, "Coffee, neutral ground, 1 hour, Brewster's on 5th. I almost didn't go, but curiosity won. He was already there when I arrived, slumped in a corner booth with his hands wrapped around a coffee cup like it was the only thing keeping him upright. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "You came," he said without looking up. "You asked me to? Sit, please." I slid into the booth across from him. Up close, I could see the dark circles under his eyes, the way his hands shook slightly when he lifted his cup. "The sale's dead," he said. "Officially canceled this morning. The buyers are talking about suing Mom and Dad for fraud." "I'm sorry to hear that." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Are you? Are you really sorry, Ren?" "I'm sorry it came to this, but not sorry you caused it. I didn't answer. Claire's parents won't lend us the money for the house now, he continued. They think we're financially irresponsible for counting on money we didn't have yet. The seller's already accepted another offer. There will be other houses. Will there? His voice cracked. Because our credit's shot now. Claire's been crying for 3 days straight. The stress isn't good for the baby. He finally looked at me, and I saw something I'd never seen in Kyson's eyes before. Not just anger, hatred. Do you know what the worst part is? He asked. Tell me. I always knew you resented me. Even when we were kids, I could feel it. The way you'd watch Mom and Dad fuss over me, help me with homework, bail me out when I screwed up. You'd just stand there with that look on your face. What look? Like you were keeping score, like you were writing it all down in some little notebook, waiting for the right moment to cash in. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Is that what you think this is about? Keeping score? Isn't it? He leaned forward. You couldn't stand that they gave me the money. You couldn't stand that for once. I got something you didn't. So you decided to burn it all down. They gave you money from the sale of a house built on contaminated land. A house that should never have been sold in the first place. Bullshit! His voice rose, drawing stares from other customers. This isn't about contaminated land or health violations or whatever other legal garbage you dug up. This is about you finally getting your revenge on the family that never appreciated you enough. The words hit harder than I expected, maybe because there was truth in them. You want to know something, Ren? He lowered his voice to a whisper. I always envied you. That caught me off guard. What? You heard me. I envied you. Your grades, your job, your perfect little apartment, your savings account, the way you never needed anyone for anything. Do you know how exhausting it is being the family screw-up? Having everyone expect you to fail? Poor Kyson, I said. It must be so hard having everyone make excuses for you your entire life. Make excuses? He stared at me. You think they made excuses for me? I think they enabled you. I think they taught you that other people would always clean up your messes. And what did they teach you? His eyes were bright with unshed tears. That you didn't matter? That you were just the backup plan? The question hung between us like a blade. Because that's what you were, wasn't it? He continued. The responsible one. The one who'd always be there to pick up the pieces when I inevitably fell apart. They didn't give you money because they knew you didn't need it. You'd figure it out on your own. You always do. Stop. But I needed it, Ren. I actually needed help, and for once, they gave it to me instead of you, and you couldn't handle that. I said stop, so you destroyed it. You destroyed all of it. The house, the money, Mom and Dad's reputation, my future, my family. Your family? I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. Your family? What about me, Kyson? What about my family? You made your choice when you sent that letter. I made my choice 32 years ago when I decided to be the daughter they needed instead of the daughter they wanted. When I stayed quiet and helpful and invisible so you could be the star. When I sacrificed my own needs so you could have everything handed to you. Nobody asked you to do that. They didn't have to ask. It was expected. It was my role. I was shouting now, and I didn't care. The good daughter, the reliable daughter, the daughter who doesn't need anything because she's so strong and independent and practical. Kyson's face crumpled. Ren, do you know what Dad said when I graduated summa cum laude? That's nice, honey. Do you know what he said when you barely graduated high school? We're so proud of you, son. You worked so hard. I'm sorry. I don't want your apology. I want you to understand that this isn't about money or revenge or keeping score. This is about 32 years of being told I don't matter while watching you get rewarded for mediocrity. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Ren, wait! I turned back. What? If you go through with this, if you let them prosecute Mom and Dad, we're done. All of us. You'll have no family left. I looked at my little brother sitting alone in that coffee shop booth and felt something break inside my chest. I haven't had a family in a long time, Kyson. I just finally stopped pretending I did. I walked out and didn't look back. My phone rang before I reached my car. Unknown number. Ms. Hopkins, this is Detective Sarah Martinez with the county police. We need to talk. The police station smelled like burnt coffee and disinfectant. Detective Martinez led me to a small interview room with gray walls and fluorescent lighting that made everyone look sick. Thank you for coming in voluntarily, she said, settling across from me with a thick file folder. I understand you've provided some documentation regarding the Hopkins property sale. That's correct. The buyer's attorney forwarded your materials to us. Environmental fraud, potential cover-up of a missing person case from 1962. She opened the folder. Miguel Santos. Ring a bell? I found newspaper clippings about his disappearance in my aunt's files. Your Aunt Prudence, the local historian. Martinez pulled out a photocopy of the article I'd found. Says here Santos was last seen working alone at your family's property, clearing an area for construction. That's what the article says. The case was closed after 2 months. No body found. Family moved back to Mexico. But here's the interesting part. She slid another document across the table. I pulled the original police file. The investigating officer noted that the construction company refused to let them search the entire property, said certain areas were unsafe due to unstable soil conditions. My mouth went dry. Unsafe how? That's what I'd like to know. Because according to your soil test results, that unstable area is exactly where we're seeing the highest contamination levels. She leaned back in her chair, studying my face. Your father was city engineer when those health department violation notices were sent out. He had the authority to override safety concerns, approve building permits, even seal investigation files. I'm aware of that. Are you also aware that obstruction of justice doesn't have a statute of limitations when it involves a potential homicide? The word hung in the air between us like a loaded gun. Homicide? Miguel Santos didn't just disappear, Ms. Hopkins. According to witness statements from 1962, he'd been asking questions about the burial site, wanted to know why he wasn't allowed to dig in certain areas, made some people nervous. She pulled out another document. This is a statement from Santos's co-worker, taken 3 days before Miguel disappeared. Says Miguel had found bones and old stuff while clearing the lot and wanted to report it to authorities. What happened to the co-worker? Fired the next day, left town a week later. Martinez closed the file and looked at me directly. Ms. Hopkins, I need to ask you something, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. Did you know about any of this when you sent that disclosure letter? I suspected the contamination was real based on the historical records. I didn't know about Miguel Santos until after I'd already sent the letter. But you knew your father had received violation notices and ignored them? Yes. And you knew the sale was proceeding without disclosure of environmental hazards? Yes. So you decided to blow up your brother's real estate deal to expose your father's cover-up. I met her eyes. I decided to tell the truth. Martinez nodded slowly. The truth? Right. She stood up. Well, Ms. Hopkins, your truth is about to get very complicated. We're opening a formal investigation into the Santos disappearance and your father's role in the subsequent cover-up. That means search warrants, excavation of the property, forensic analysis of any remains we find. I understand. Do you? Because once this starts, there's no stopping it. If we find evidence that Miguel Santos was murdered and your father helped cover it up, he's looking at charges for accessory after the fact, obstruction of justice, maybe more. She walked me to the door. One more thing. The buyers are considering filing a civil suit against your parents for fraud. Between the criminal investigation and the civil liability, your family is looking at financial ruin. They made their choices, and you made yours. Martinez handed me her business card. We'll be in touch, and Ms. Hopkins, you might want to get a lawyer. Even whistleblowers sometimes need protection. I drove home in a daze. The weight of what I'd set in motion was finally hitting me. Not just a canceled real estate deal or family drama, a murder investigation, criminal charges, prison time for Dad. My phone was buzzing constantly. I ignored it until I got to my apartment, then scrolled through the messages. Jamal. Police called me asking about the property history. What the hell did you find? Mom. The police want to search the house. What have you done to us? Dad. We need to talk. This has gone too far. And then one that made my blood freeze. From Claire. I hope you're proud of yourself. The stress sent me to the hospital last night. If I lose this baby, it's on you. I hope your niece never knows your name. I stared at that message until the words blurred. Then I set the phone aside and poured myself a glass of wine with shaking hands. The apartment felt too quiet, too empty. For the first time since this started, I wondered if I'd gone too far. If revenge was worth destroying everyone, including an innocent baby who hadn't even been born yet. My phone rang. Cesar, the buyer's attorney. Ms. Hopkins, I wanted to update you on our investigation. We've uncovered additional documentation that strengthens the fraud case against your parents. What kind of documentation? Insurance records showing your father filed claims for mysterious odors and soil issues at the property in 1995 and 2003. Claims he later withdrew without explanation. He knew. He absolutely knew. Ms. Hopkins, I want you to understand something. You've provided us with enough evidence to pursue both criminal and civil action, but I need to ask, are you prepared to testify against your own family if this goes to trial? I looked out my window at the city lights, thinking about Miguel Santos and his family, who never got answers, about the contaminated land that had been poisoning people for decades, about 32 years of being invisible while my family rewarded lies and mediocrity. Yes, I said, I'm prepared. Then we'll be in touch. After I hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time, wondering if this was what justice felt like. It felt a lot like drowning. They came to my apartment at 8 p.m. on a Thursday, all three of them standing in my hallway like some twisted intervention. Mom's face was puffy from crying. Dad looked like he'd aged 10 years in 2 weeks. Kyson just looked broken. We need to talk, Dad said. I let them in because I was tired of running from this conversation. Mom immediately started crying again the moment she sat down. Ren, honey, the police searched the house today. They dug up the entire backyard. The neighbors were watching, taking pictures. Everyone knows now. What did they find? I asked. Dad's jaw tightened. You know what they found. I want to hear you say it. Bones, Kyson said quietly. Human bones, and some kind of metal tag with a name on it. Miguel Santos. After 60 years, he was finally coming home. The detective said they'll need dental records to confirm identification, Dad continued, but they're treating it as a homicide investigation now. Because it is a homicide. You don't know that, Mom snapped. It could have been an accident. Construction accidents happened all the time back then. Then why did you cover it up? I looked directly at Dad. Why did you ignore the health department notices? Why did you use your position to bury the investigation? Dad stood up and started pacing my small living room. Because I was 28 years old with a new baby and a mortgage. Because admitting there was a body on our property would have destroyed our lives. So you decided to destroy Miguel Santos's family instead. His family was gone. They'd moved back to Mexico. There was no one left to care. There was someone left to care, I said. There was you. There was the truth. Mom wiped her eyes with a tissue. Ren, sweetheart, I know you're angry with us about the money, but this is going too far. Your father could go to prison. Good. The word came out harder than I'd intended, but I didn't take it back. Kyson flinched like I'd slapped him. Jesus, Ren, he's our father. He's a man who covered up a murder and built our family home on top of a grave. He's a man who took money from buyers without telling them they were purchasing contaminated land. He's a man who destroyed evidence and obstructed justice for 60 years. He's the man who raised you, Mom shouted, who put a roof over your head and food on your table and paid for your education. With blood money. Dad stopped pacing and turned to face me. You want to know the truth, Ren? Fine. Here's the truth. Miguel Santos was drunk when he fell into that excavation pit, stone drunk at 10 in the morning. He hit his head on a piece of equipment and died instantly. Then why not report it? Because the construction company was already behind schedule and over budget. Because admitting we had a drunk worker die on the job would have meant lawsuits, insurance investigations, delays we couldn't afford. So you buried him? We buried him with respect. We said prayers. We marked the spot. You said prayers, I repeated. How thoughtful. Don't you dare judge me, Dad's voice cracked. You have no idea what it was like back then. No idea what we sacrificed to build a life for this family. I know exactly what you sacrificed, I said. You sacrificed Miguel Santos. You sacrificed his family's right to know what happened to him. You sacrificed the safety of everyone who's lived in that house for the past 60 years. Mom was sobbing now. We never meant for anyone to get hurt. We thought the contamination would go away over time. Contamination doesn't go away, Mom. It spreads. It seeps into groundwater and air systems and makes people sick. How many families have lived in that house over the years? How many children played in that backyard? We didn't know, she cried. You didn't want to know. There's a difference. Kyson had been quiet through most of this, but now he looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. What do you want from us, Ren? What would make this right in your mind? I want Dad to confess to the police. I want him to tell them exactly what happened to Miguel Santos and how he covered it up. I want him to face the consequences of his choices. And if he does that, if he confesses and goes to prison and loses everything, will that make you happy? I looked at my little brother, really looked at him, and saw something I hadn't expected. Not just anger or desperation, understanding. No, I said quietly. It won't make me happy, but it might make it right. Dad sat down heavily in my armchair. The detective said if I cooperate, if I provide information about what happened, they might consider reduced charges. Will you? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, I don't have a choice anymore, do I? Thanks to you, the truth is coming out whether I help or not. The truth was always going to come out eventually. I just decided to stop waiting. Mom looked up at me through her tears. You've destroyed us. You know that, don't you? You've destroyed your own family. I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped pretending it wasn't already broken. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of 60 years of lies finally crushing down on all of us. Then Mom said something that made my blood stop. You were never supposed to be born. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? We were trying for another boy, after Kyson. We wanted to give him a brother. Her voice was flat, emotionless. But we got you instead. And we tried to love you the same. We really did. But you were never what we wanted. I stared at her, feeling something fundamental shift inside my chest. Now you know, she continued. Now you know why we always loved him more, why we gave him the money, why we protected him and expected you to be strong enough to take care of yourself. Harper, Dad said quietly. Don't. No, she wants the truth? Here's the truth. You were the consolation prize, Ren, and you've spent your whole life punishing us for it. I walked to the door and opened it. Get out. They left without another word. Mom was still crying. Dad looked like a man walking to his execution. Kyson paused at the door. I'm sorry, he said, about what she said. That was cruel. But it was true. He didn't deny it. After they left, I sat in my empty apartment and finally understood why I'd done all of this. It wasn't about the money or the house or even Miguel Santos. It was about being seen. Finally, after 32 years, I was visible, even if it meant burning everything down to get there. The house looked like a crime scene because it was one. Yellow tape fluttered around the property line. Half the backyard had been excavated, leaving gaping holes filled with standing water from last night's rain. The condemned sign on the front door was already weathered and peeling. I stood on the sidewalk where I used to wait for the school bus, watching the forensics team pack up their equipment. They'd found everything: Miguel Santos's remains, his work badge, even fragments of the equipment that killed him. The coroner confirmed what Dad had finally admitted: blunt force trauma to the skull, consistent with a fall. "Ms. Hopkins?" I turned to find Detective Martinez walking toward me, her boots squelching in the muddy driveway. "I wanted to update you on your father's cooperation," she said. "He's provided a full confession about the cover-up. The DA is considering a plea deal, 5 years for obstruction of justice and improper disposal of human remains." "What about the construction company?" "Long defunct. Most of the people involved are dead. Your father's the only one left to hold accountable." She handed me an envelope. "This came for you through the department, from Miguel Santos's family." My hands shook as I opened it. The letter was in Spanish with an English translation attached. "Dear Miss Hopkins, we heard on the news about our grandfather Miguel. Our family never stopped wondering what happened to him. Our grandmother died still hoping he would come home. Thank you for giving us the truth, even though it was hard. We can finally bury him properly. The Santos family." I folded the letter carefully and put it in my pocket. "There's something else," Martinez said. "The environmental cleanup is going to cost close to $500,000. The insurance company is refusing to pay since your parents knew about the contamination. They're filing for bankruptcy. And Kyson? Lost the house he was trying to buy. His wife had the baby last week, a girl. They're living with her parents now." I nodded, feeling nothing, or maybe feeling everything at once. "Do you regret it?" Martinez asked. "Exposing all this?" I looked at the ruined house, the muddy holes where Miguel Santos had been buried for 60 years, the condemned sign that meant no other family would unknowingly live on top of a grave. "No," I said. "I don't regret it." Martinez left, and I walked to my car. But instead of going home, I drove across town to Riverside Cemetery, where Aunt Prudence was buried. Her headstone was simple granite, with just her name and dates. I knelt down and pulled the letter from the Santos family out of my pocket. "You were right," I said to the stone. "The soil remembered. It all remembered." I placed the letter on her grave, weighted down with a small rock. "Thank you for leaving me the map. Thank you for not letting them bury the truth forever." The wind picked up, rustling the oak trees overhead. For a moment, I could almost hear Prudence's voice. "Some secrets refuse to stay buried, dear girl." My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "This is Claire. The baby came early, but she's healthy. We named her Prudence. Thought you should know." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, "Congratulations. She's lucky to have that name." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. "Kyson wants to see you. When you're ready. No pressure." I put the phone away without responding. Maybe someday I'd be ready to meet my niece. Maybe someday Kyson and I could find a way to be siblings again. But not today. Today, I drove to the new apartment I'd rented across town. Smaller than my old place, but it had better light and no memories of family confrontations in the living room. I was unpacking boxes when my phone rang. Jamal. "Hey, I just wanted to check on you. Saw the news about your dad's plea deal." "I'm okay." "Are you, though? Really?" I looked around my new apartment, my books on fresh shelves, my coffee maker on a clean counter, my life finally my own. "You know what the strangest part is?" I said. "I thought revenge would feel different. I thought it would feel satisfying. And it doesn't? It feels like justice, which is quieter than I expected. Justice usually is." After we hung up, I made dinner and ate it at my small table while reading a book about local history I'd borrowed from the library. Normal things, peaceful things. My phone buzzed one more time. A news alert. Local man pleads guilty in 60-year-old cover-up case. I deleted it without reading the article. I didn't need to read about it anymore. I'd lived it. I'd ended it. And now I was free to start writing a different story. One where I wasn't the overlooked daughter or the family caretaker or the keeper of everyone else's secrets. Just Wren. Finally, after 32 years, just Wren. I didn't burn down the house. I just pulled back the wallpaper and showed them the mold underneath. The flames were always theirs.
The text message arrived just as they were lowering my grandmother's casket into the ground. Don't trust them, Sweet Pea. Check under the sewing machine. My hands trembled as I stared at the recovered voicemail notification. My grandmother's last words to me emerging from digital limbo like a ghost. I'm Nora, and this is the story of how my grandmother's death exposed decades of family lies. Really, she couldn't even wear proper black shoes to the funeral. My mother Evangeline's whisper carried across the cemetery, sharp enough to cut glass. I glanced down at my burgundy flats, Grandma's favorite color, and bit back a smile. Even now, Mother was trying to control the narrative. The autumn wind whipped around us, carrying the scent of rain and roses. Perfect funeral weather, as if the universe itself was setting the stage. I stood apart from the cluster of black-clad relatives, watching my cousin Kylie orchestrate the proceedings like a conductor leading her symphony of grief. Such a shame about Nora, Kylie murmured to our Aunt Sawyer, not bothering to lower her voice. Living in that tiny apartment, no real career to speak of. Grandma worried about her so much. I dug my nails into my palms and kept my face neutral. They had no idea what was coming. Nora. My brother Jaden appeared at my side, his suit perfectly pressed, his tie as straight as his banking career. You should join the family. I am joining the family, I replied. I'm just doing it from right here. He shifted uncomfortably. Mother's just trying to maintain appearances. You know how these things are. Oh, I know exactly how these things are. I pulled out my phone again, showing him the notification. Look what just popped up from my cloud backup. His eyes widened as he read the message. When was this? 3 days before she died. Funny timing, don't you think? Before Jaden could respond, Kylie's voice rang out across the cemetery. Everyone, please join us at the house for the reception. We'll be reading the will at 4. I watched my perfect cousin sweep toward her Mercedes, her fiancé Eric in tow. The family lawyer, old Mr. Benson, caught my eye and gave me an unreadable look before turning away. You're coming, right? Jaden asked. Wouldn't miss it for the world. The drive to Grandma's mansion was exactly 17 minutes. I'd timed it countless times during our Sunday visits. As I pulled into the circular driveway, I noticed Kylie already directing the catering staff like a general deploying troops. The flowers go in the solarium, she commanded. And please, use the good crystal for the wine service. I slipped past her into the house, my feet automatically carrying me toward the sewing room. The door was locked, of course it was, but I'd watched Grandma hide the spare key behind the loose baseboard for years. What are you doing? I nearly jumped out of my skin. Mother stood at the end of the hall, her mascara perfect despite her theatrical tears. Looking for some thread, I said smoothly. My button's loose. She pursed her lips. The reading is in 30 minutes. Try to be presentable. I'll do my best to meet your impossibly high standards, Mother. She swept away, leaving behind a cloud of expensive perfume and disappointment. I waited until her footsteps faded before slipping the key into the lock. The sewing room smelled like Grandma, lavender and fabric softener. Her ancient Singer machine sat in the corner, surrounded by bins of colorful fabric and thread. I ran my fingers along its base, feeling for any irregularities. There you are. Kylie's voice made me freeze. Everyone's gathering in the study. I straightened up, plastering on a smile. Just wanted to see her space one last time. Well, hurry up. We need to get through this efficiently. She paused, her perfect eyebrows drawing together. Don't get your hopes up about the will, Nora. Grandma was very specific about protecting her assets. I followed her to the study, where the family had assembled like vultures around Mr. Benson's leather briefcase. Mother sat regally in Grandma's favorite armchair, while Aunt Sawyer perched nearby, dabbing at dry eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. "Now then," Mr. Benson cleared his throat. "Shall we begin?" I took a seat by the window, away from the others. My phone felt heavy in my pocket, Grandma's message burning like a secret sun. They thought they knew everything, the perfect family with their perfect lives and their perfect plans. But Grandma had taught me patience. She'd shown me how to sew a straight seam, how to weather disappointment with grace, and most importantly, how to wait for the right moment to reveal your hand. I settled back in my chair as Mr. Benson opened his briefcase. The real show was about to begin, and for once I knew exactly how this story would end. The will reading went exactly as expected, which is to say exactly as they'd planned. I sat quietly while Kylie received the bulk of the estate, Mother got the family jewels, and Jaden inherited the summer cottage. My inheritance? A locket and Grandma's rocking chair. "I'm sure she had her reasons," Kylie said afterward, her sympathy dripping like poison honey. I waited until midnight before returning to the sewing room. The house was empty now, everyone gone home to count their spoils. The spare key was still behind the baseboard, right where I'd left it. This time, I went straight for the Singer machine. My fingers traced every inch until there. A slight gap in the base plate that shouldn't exist. I pulled out my phone and replayed Grandma's message one more time. "Check under the sewing machine." The plate came loose with a gentle tug, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside lay a USB drive and a thick envelope sealed with wax. My hands shook as I broke the seal. "My dearest Nora," the letter began in Grandma's elegant script. "If you're reading this, they've done exactly what I feared they would." A noise in the hallway made me freeze. Footsteps approached, then passed. Probably the housekeeper. Kylie had insisted on having the house cleaned tonight. I continued reading. 10 years ago, I started putting money aside for you. Small amounts at first, then larger ones as I saw how they were treating you. The account information is on the USB drive. It's all legally yours. I made sure of that." My heart pounded as I pulled out my laptop and plugged in the drive. Documents loaded onto the screen. Bank statements, legal papers, transfer records. The final balance made me gasp. $750,000. "Everything okay in there?" I slammed my laptop shut. Jaden stood in the doorway, looking uncertain. "What are you doing here?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "I forgot my phone charger." He stepped into the room. "What are you doing here?" "Getting my inheritance." I held up the letter. Turns out the rocking chair wasn't all Grandma left me. He moved closer, eyes fixed on the papers spread across the sewing table. "What is all this?" "The truth." I handed him the letter. "Read it yourself." His eyes widened as he scanned the pages. "Holy shit, Nora! Does Mother know about this? What do you think?" He sat heavily in the rocking chair. "This will destroy her." "No," I corrected him. "This will expose her." "There's more," I said, turning my laptop screen toward him. "Look at these emails between Mother and Kylie from last year. They were planning to have Grandma declared incompetent, take control of everything. But they didn't succeed? Because Grandma was smarter than they thought. She'd already set this up, hidden away where they'd never look." I gestured around the sewing room. The one place they thought was worthless. Jaden ran a hand through his hair. "What are you going to do?" "First, I'm going to transfer these funds to my own account, legally, since Grandma already set it up in my name. Then I'm going to wait for tomorrow's executor meeting." "Kylie's meeting? Why?" I smiled, remembering all the times they'd called me irresponsible, unstable, a disappointment. "Because that's when I'm going to show them exactly who they've been underestimating." "They'll fight you on this," Jaden warned. Let them try. I gathered the documents, securing them in my bag. Grandma gave me everything I need to win. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Kylie. Emergency family meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Don't be late. Perfect timing, I murmured. Jaden stood up. I should go. But Nora... He hesitated. I'm sorry for not standing up for you before. Prove it tomorrow, I said. When they try to paint me as the crazy one again, prove it by telling the truth. After he left, I sat in Grandma's rocking chair, feeling the smooth wood beneath my fingers. The house creaked and settled around me, full of memories both bitter and sweet. My phone buzzed again, Mother this time. I expect you to behave appropriately tomorrow. No scenes. I thought about all the times I'd swallowed my words, played the role they'd assigned me. The quiet one, the troubled one, the one who couldn't be trusted with responsibility. Don't worry, Mother, I typed back. I'll behave exactly as you taught me. Then I gathered my evidence, locked the sewing room, and walked out into the night. Tomorrow would come soon enough, and with it, the moment Grandma had prepared me for all along. As I drove home, her voice echoed in my mind from countless Sunday afternoons. Sometimes, Sweet Pea, the strongest thread is the one nobody sees until it's holding everything together. Well, they were about to see every single stitch. I arrived at exactly 9 a.m., dressed in one of Grandma's vintage Chanel suits I'd found in the sewing room. Mother's face tightened when she saw me. She recognized it immediately. That's not yours, she snapped. Actually, it is. I smoothed the jacket, along with everything else in the sewing room. Right, Mr. Benson? The lawyer nodded, adjusting his glasses. The contents of the sewing room were specifically left to Nora. Kylie swept in, carrying a leather portfolio and wearing an expression of professional concern. Let's get started. We have a lot to cover regarding the estate distribution. We certainly do, I agreed, setting my own briefcase on the table. The family gathered around the dining room table. Mother, Aunt Sawyer, Jaden, Kylie, and her fiancé, Eric, who really had no business being there. Mr. Benson sat at the far end, looking uncomfortable. First order of business, Kylie began. We need to discuss the sale of the lake house. Excuse me? I interrupted. What sale? The lake house needs to be liquidated to cover estate taxes, she explained, as if talking to a child. As executor, I've already begun entertaining offers. That's interesting, I said, pulling out my first document. Because according to this, the lake house was transferred to a separate trust 3 months ago. The room went silent. Kylie's perfectly manicured hand froze mid-gesture. What are you talking about? Mother demanded. I slid the paper toward Mr. Benson. Would you mind confirming this document's authenticity? He examined it carefully, then cleared his throat. This appears to be a legal transfer of the lake house property to a trust in Nora's name. That's impossible, Kylie said sharply. I have all the estate documents. Not all of them. I started laying out more papers. You see, Grandma was quite busy in her final months. Mr. Benson, would you mind explaining what these are? The lawyer looked increasingly uncomfortable. These are additional estate documents, all properly notarized and filed. This is ridiculous, Mother cut in. Clearly she's forged these papers. Like you forged Grandma's signature on those bank withdrawals last year? I asked innocently. Aunt Sawyer gasped. Kylie's face went white. I have no idea what you're talking about, Mother said, but her hand trembled as she reached for her water glass. Really? Because I have copies of those transactions too. 5 withdrawals totaling $100,000, all with suspiciously shaky signatures. Grandma's arthritis was bad then, wasn't it? Or was it bad at all? Jaden spoke up. I remember those withdrawals. You said they were for Grandma's new medication. They were, Mother insisted. Funny, I said, because I have her medical records here too. No new medications were prescribed that year. Kylie stood up abruptly. This meeting is over. You're clearly trying to cause trouble, as usual. Sit down, Kylie. We haven't even gotten to your part yet. She froze. What are you talking about? I pulled out the USB drive. Should we discuss the emails between you and Mother about having Grandma declared incompetent? Or the loan you took out using her address? That's enough. Mother slammed her hand on the table. I won't sit here and listen to these accusations. Then you should probably leave before I show everyone the offshore account records. The room erupted into chaos. Aunt Sawyer started crying. Eric quietly slipped out the door. Kylie and Mother were both talking at once, their voices getting higher and more desperate. Mr. Benson, I raised my voice above the noise, would you please read Grandma's letter? The one explaining why she set up the secret trust? He nodded, pulling out the final document. The room fell silent as he began to read. To my family, I've watched you twist yourselves into knots over money and status, forgetting what truly matters. You've manipulated, lied, and schemed, all while claiming it was for the best. But worst of all, you've tried to break the one person who reminds me of myself at her age, my granddaughter Nora. Mother made a choking sound. Kylie sank back into her chair. Therefore, Mr. Benson continued, I've made arrangements to ensure the truth comes to light. Nora will receive not only the separate trust, but also full documentation of all financial misconduct over the past 5 years. What she chooses to do with this information is up to her. I looked around the table at their shocked faces. I choose transparency. Every transaction, every forged document, every manipulative email, all of it goes to the authorities unless we reach an agreement right now. What kind of agreement? Kylie asked weakly. You step down as executor, the lake house stays with me, and you all admit, publicly, what you've done. You wouldn't dare, Mother whispered. I stood up, gathering my documents. Try me. You have until tomorrow to decide. After all, I'm just the irresponsible one, right? Who knows what I might do? As I walked out, I heard Jaden follow me, but I didn't stop. The time for talking was over. Now it was time for justice. They're here, Jaden texted me the next morning. I took a deep breath and checked my reflection one last time. Grandma's suit still fit perfectly. The lake house's great room was already full when I arrived. Mother sat rigid on the antique sofa, while Kylie paced by the fireplace. Aunt Sawyer had claimed the window seat, dabbing at her eyes with a fresh handkerchief. Mr. Benson stood near his briefcase, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Before we start, I said, closing the door behind me, I want to make something clear. This isn't about revenge. This is about truth. Truth? Mother's laugh was brittle. You're blackmailing us. No, I'm giving you a choice, the same choice you never gave me. Kylie stopped pacing. What do you want, Nora? Money? Is that it? I have money. I pulled out my phone and showed them the trust account balance. What I want is for you to stop lying. We never lied, Mother protested. We protected this family's interests. Really? I opened my laptop. Should we watch the video of you telling Grandma's doctors she was confused about her finances? Or read the emails where you and Kylie planned to sell her art collection behind her back? Jaden stepped forward. I knew something was wrong last year. The way you kept rushing Grandma to sign things. Stay out of this, Mother snapped. No, he said firmly. I'm done staying out of it. Mr. Benson cleared his throat. Perhaps we should discuss the terms of the agreement? It's simple, I said. Kylie resigns as executor. The lake house and trust remain mine. And you all sign statements admitting what you did. You'll destroy this family, Aunt Sawyer whispered. You did that yourselves. I'm just bringing it into the light. Kylie's face crumpled. Fine, I'll step down. But those statements? People will talk. They're already talking, I replied. About the mysterious loans, the missing artwork, the sudden transfers. Wouldn't you rather control the narrative? Mother stood up suddenly. You think you're so clever, don't you? Playing the victim just like always. Actually, I pulled out one final envelope. Grandma thought I was clever. This is her last letter to me, written the day before she died. The room went silent as I began to read. My dearest Nora, by now you've discovered everything. The money, the documents, the truth. They'll call you cruel for exposing them. But remember, sometimes kindness means standing firm. They broke your father's spirit with their schemes. I won't let them break yours. Mother went pale. What does she mean about your father? You know exactly what she means, I said quietly. The failed business venture that ruined him? Turns out Kylie's father sabotaged the deal. Grandma found the proof. Kylie sank into a chair. Dad wouldn't. He did. And you all watched my father fall apart, never saying a word. Jaden's voice shook. Is that why he left? Disappeared? Yes. I closed the letter. So now you have a choice. Sign the statements or I release everything, including what happened to Dad. Mother's facade finally cracked. You ungrateful little... Sign, Aunt Sawyer interrupted. Evangeline, just sign. It's over. Mr. Benson produced the documents. One by one, they signed. Kylie first, then Aunt Sawyer, finally Mother, her signature as sharp as broken glass. The press release goes out tomorrow, I said. A simple statement about financial irregularities and a change in executor. Nothing more, unless you make it necessary. And then what? Mother asked bitterly. You take everything and leave? No, I take what's mine and start a foundation in Grandma's name for families destroyed by financial abuse. I gathered my things. You're welcome to donate, anonymously, of course. As they filed out, Jaden stayed behind. I found some of Dad's old letters, he said, in Grandma's desk. Do you want to read them together? I felt tears threatening for the first time. Yeah, I'd like that. The lake house creaked and settled around us, full of memories both dark and light. Through the window, I could see Mother's car pulling away, Kylie's following close behind. What happens now? Jaden asked. I touched the locket around my neck, the one inheritance they thought was worthless. Inside was a tiny key that had unlocked everything. Now we heal, I said, and we remember what Grandma taught us about truth. Which is? That it comes out, one way or another. The only choice is whether you face it or run from it. He nodded, understanding at last. They'll never forgive you for this. I know. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. But Grandma would be proud. Outside, the lake rippled under the autumn sun, its surface breaking and reforming, each wave washing away what came before. Just like truth, I thought. Just like justice. Just like healing. The press release hit like a controlled explosion. Within hours, my phone was buzzing with messages from family, friends, and distant relatives. I ignored them all and focused on cleaning out Grandma's attic at the lake house. Look at this, Jaden said, pulling a dusty photo album from behind a trunk. It's from the summer Dad taught us to swim. I set down the box I was sorting and joined him on the floor. The photos showed a different family, one where Mother still smiled, where Dad's eyes weren't haunted, where Grandma sat in her garden chair watching over us all. Wait, I said, noticing something tucked between the pages. What's this? It was a small leather journal, its pages yellow with age. Grandma's handwriting filled every page. June 15th, I read aloud. Evangeline came today asking for another loan. I refused. She doesn't know I've seen the gambling receipts or that Thomas called me about the missing company funds. Jaden leaned closer. Thomas? Dad's business partner? There's more. I flipped through the pages. September 3rd, Kylie visited with her father. They think I don't know about their plan to force Thomas out of the merger. Poor man has no idea what's coming. A floorboard creaked behind us. We spun around to find Eric, Kylie's fiancé, standing in the doorway. "Sorry," he said quickly. "The door was open. What are you doing here?" I stood up, clutching the journal. "Looking for Kylie, actually. She's not answering her phone and—" He paused, noticing the tension. "What's that you're reading?" "Nothing that concerns you," Jaden said. Eric stepped further into the attic. "Look, I know things are messy right now, but Kylie's really struggling. The bank is asking questions about those loans." "What loans?" I asked sharply. He shifted uncomfortably. "The ones she took out using this address. There's something wrong with the paperwork." I exchanged looks with Jaden. "Show me." Eric pulled out his phone and pulled up some emails. She said her grandmother approved everything, but now the bank's fraud department is involved. The documents showed multiple loans, all using the lake house as collateral. Dates, amounts, signatures, all forged after Grandma's death. "She's going to lose everything," Eric said. "Her job at the bank, her reputation." "Like my father lost everything?" I asked coldly. His face changed. "What do you mean?" I handed him the journal. "Read it. Then decide if you still want to marry into this family." While he read, I continued sorting through boxes. In one, I found a stack of letters tied with a faded ribbon. They were from Dad, dated after he left. "Dear Mom," I read silently. I can't face them knowing what they did. The setup, the stolen contracts, the lies. Keep watching over my children, especially Nora. She sees through their games, just like you do. Holy shit, Eric's voice broke through my thoughts. I had no idea. "Now you do," Jaden said. "Question is, what are you going to do about it?" Eric closed the journal carefully. "I need to think, but Nora, there's something else you should know. Kylie's been meeting with lawyers. They're planning to challenge the trust." "Let them try," I said. "I have everything documented." "Not everything." He pulled out another envelope. "I found these in her desk, letters from your grandmother that she never sent you. Kylie intercepted them." My hands shook as I opened the envelope. Years of birthday cards, Christmas letters, notes of encouragement, all hidden away by my perfect cousin. "Why are you showing us this?" Jaden asked. "Because I'm done being part of their lies." Eric headed for the stairs. "Do what you need to do with those letters. I'll handle Kylie." After he left, Jaden and I sat in silence, surrounded by the evidence of decades of deception. "We need to go through everything," I finally said. "Every box, every paper. No more secrets." "What about Mother? This will destroy what's left of her reputation." I picked up Dad's letters. "She destroyed our family first. Now we rebuild it, honestly this time." My phone buzzed with a text from Mr. Benson. "Kylie's lawyers called. They're demanding a meeting." "Good," I typed back. "Tell them to bring everything. It's time to finish this." Jaden helped me pack up the journals and letters. As we carried them downstairs, I caught a glimpse of movement through the window. Mother, standing at the edge of the property, watching us. I walked onto the porch, holding up Dad's letters so she could see them. She turned and hurried to her car, but not before I saw her face crumple. "Ready for round 2?" Jaden asked. I looked at the boxes of truth we'd uncovered. They're not going to know what hit them. The lake rippled in the distance, keeping its own secrets, but not for long, not anymore. The meeting was set for noon at Mr. Benson's office. I arrived early, arranging my evidence in neat piles on the conference table. Jaden sat beside me, reviewing Dad's letters one last time. "They're here," Mr. Benson announced, opening the door. Kylie swept in first, flanked by 2 sharp-suited lawyers. Mother followed, then Aunt Sawyer. No sign of Eric. "Before we begin," Kylie's primary lawyer started, "we have serious concerns about the validity of—" "Save it," I interrupted, sliding the first stack of documents across the table. "These are the letters your client intercepted. 5 years of correspondence between me and my grandmother. Never delivered. Kylie's face went white. How did you... Eric found them, I said. He's very thorough when packing to move out. Mother's head snapped up. What do you mean? Move out? Oh, you haven't heard, I smiled. He resigned from the bank this morning. Something about not wanting to be involved in fraud. That's enough, Kylie's lawyer cut in. We're here to discuss the trust's validity. Perfect, I pulled out Grandma's journal. Let's discuss validity. Should we start with the forged loan documents or the embezzlement from Dad's company? Those are private family matters, Mother said sharply. Not anymore. Jaden opened his laptop. The SEC is very interested in what happened to Dad's company. I sent them everything this morning. Aunt Sawyer gasped. You didn't? We did, I confirmed. Along with proof of Kylie's recent loan fraud, the investigators should be at the bank right about... I checked my watch. Now. Kylie's phone buzzed. She read the message and crumpled, tears smearing her perfect makeup. You've ruined everything, she whispered. No, you did that yourself. I'm just showing everyone the truth. Her lawyers huddled together, whispering urgently. Mother sat frozen, her face a mask of fury and fear. What do you want? Aunt Sawyer asked quietly. I want you to drop the challenge to the trust, sign over the lake house completely, and... I pulled out one final document. I want you to sign this confession about what you did to Dad. Absolutely not, Mother snapped. Then I'll release everything, every detail, including your gambling debts. The room went silent. Mother's hands trembled. How did you know about those? She whispered. Grandma kept records of everything, including the money she paid to keep you out of trouble. I leaned forward. Sign the confession, Mother. Do one honest thing in your life. Kylie's lawyers stood up. We need to confer with our client. You have 5 minutes, I said. Then I start making phone calls. They filed out, leaving Mother, Aunt Sawyer, and me. Why are you doing this? Mother asked, her voice breaking. Because Dad deserved better, because I deserved better, because Grandma saw through all of you and she made sure I would too. Jaden touched my arm. They're coming back. Kylie entered alone, her lawyers conspicuously absent. I'll sign, she said quietly. Everything. Just, please don't send those loan documents to the police. Too late, I replied. But your cooperation will look good for the investigation. She picked up the pen with shaking hands and signed every page I put in front of her. Mother? I slid the confession her way. Your turn. She stared at the paper for a long moment. You'll never understand what I did to protect this family. You mean protect yourself? I stood up. Sign it, or I call the gambling commission right now. The pen scratched across paper. When she finished, Mother looked decades older. Get out, I said softly. All of you, the lawyers will handle the rest. They left one by one. Aunt Sawyer paused at the door. Your grandmother would be ashamed of what you've done. No, I replied. She'd be proud I finally stood up to what you've all done. When they were gone, Jaden hugged me tight. It's over. Not quite. I gathered the signed documents. Now we have to rebuild. Mr. Benson cleared his throat. There's one more thing. A safety deposit box key was found in your grandmother's desk. Would you like to see what's inside? I thought of all the other secrets we'd uncovered. Yes, I said, no more hiding. As we left his office, my phone buzzed with a news alert. The bank had announced an internal investigation. Kylie's name was prominently featured. Are you okay? Jaden asked. I looked at the stack of papers in my hands. Proof of decades of lies finally exposed to light. I'm better than okay, I said. I'm free. The truth had cost us what was left of our family's facade. But maybe, I thought, that's exactly what Grandma intended all along. Sometimes you have to break something completely to build it back right. The safety deposit box held one last surprise, a video recording. Grandma's face filled the screen, her eyes bright despite her illness. "My dearest Nora," she began, "if you're watching this, you've already discovered everything else, but there's one final piece to this puzzle." Jaden and I sat in the bank's private viewing room, watching as Grandma revealed her last secret. "Your father isn't missing," she said. "He's been in Seattle all these years, rebuilding his life. I've kept in touch, helping him heal. He wanted to contact you both, but the shame of what happened, well, some wounds take longer to heal than others." My hand found Jaden's as we listened. "I've given his contact information to Mr. Benson. Now that the truth is out, maybe it's time for healing on all sides." She paused, smiling sadly. "Don't be too hard on your mother, sweet pea. Her crimes were born of fear, not malice, though that doesn't make them any less wrong." The video ended. Mr. Benson handed me an envelope with an address and phone number. "What do you want to do?" Jaden asked. Before I could answer, my phone rang. A reporter seeking comment on Kylie's arrest. "No comment," I said, hanging up. "Let's go find Dad." The drive to Seattle took 6 hours. We barely spoke, both lost in our own thoughts. The address led us to a small bookstore in a quiet neighborhood. "Ready?" Jaden's voice shook. I pushed open the door. A bell chimed softly. Behind the counter, a man with gray-streaked hair looked up from his book. "Welcome to—" He stopped mid-sentence, staring at us. "Hi, Dad," I whispered. He came around the counter slowly, as if afraid we might disappear. "Nora? Jaden? How did you—" "Grandma," we said together. He laughed, a rusty sound full of tears. "Of course. She always said you'd find me when the time was right." We sat in his small office above the shop, sharing 15 years of stories. He showed us photos of his new life, his little bookstore, his volunteer work with financial literacy programs. "I wanted to reach out so many times," he said. "But after what your mother and the others did—" "We know everything," I told him. "The stolen contracts, the setup, all of it." "How?" I explained about Grandma's evidence, the trust, the confessions. His face darkened when I mentioned Mother's gambling debts. "That explains a lot," he said quietly. "She was always desperate for money, even back then." "She's facing charges now," Jaden added, "along with Kylie." Dad shook his head. "I never wanted revenge. I just wanted peace." "This isn't revenge," I said. "It's justice, and maybe now we can all find peace." My phone buzzed. A text from Eric. "Kylie took a plea deal. She's giving evidence against everyone involved." "The truth really does come out," Dad murmured, reading over my shoulder. "Speaking of truth," I pulled out Grandma's journal. "She kept this for you. Every major moment you missed, every achievement, every milestone. She wrote it all down." He took the journal with trembling hands. "Mom never gave up on any of us, did she?" "No," I smiled. "She just waited for the right moment." We spent the evening planning. Dad would come back with us, help set up the foundation in Grandma's name. The bookstore could open a second location near the lake house. "What about Mother?" Jaden asked. "I'll visit her," Dad said. "After all these years, we both need closure." As we were leaving, Dad handed me a key. "Mum gave me this years ago, said to give it to you when you found me. It's to her garden shed at the lake house." "More secrets?" I asked. He smiled. The same smile I remembered from childhood. "No more secrets, just seeds she saved for you. She always said you had her green thumb." Back at our hotel, Jaden and I sat on the balcony, watching the Seattle skyline sparkle. "Think we did the right thing?" he asked. "Exposing everything?" I thought about Grandma's careful planning, Dad's quiet redemption, the truth finally breaking free. "Yes," I said. "Some things need sunlight to grow." My phone lit up with another news alert. Mother had released a statement admitting everything, apologizing publicly for the first time in her life. Look, I showed Jaden the screen. He read it slowly. Think she means it? Maybe, maybe not, but at least it's honest. Tomorrow we'd drive back, Dad following in his car. We'd face the media storm, the family fallout, the long process of rebuilding. But tonight, sitting here with my brother, knowing our father was alive and well just across the city, I felt Grandma's presence like a warm breeze. Well played, sweet pea, I could almost hear her say. Well played indeed. The truth had cost us our illusions, but it had given us back our family, the real one, not the perfect facade we'd hidden behind for so long. Sometimes that's all justice really is, the courage to be real, no matter the cost. The key to Grandma's garden shed felt heavy in my hand as I approached the small wooden structure behind the lake house. Dad and Jaden were inside, setting up for the foundation's first board meeting, but I needed this moment alone. The lock clicked open. Sunlight streamed through dusty windows, illuminating rows of carefully labeled seed packets and garden tools. A weathered wooden bench sat in the corner, and on it, one final envelope with my name. My hands shook as I opened it. Dearest Nora, if you're reading this, you've done exactly what I knew you would. You found your strength, your truth, and hopefully, your father. But now comes the hardest part, deciding what to grow from all this upheaval. The seeds in this shed aren't just for flowers, they're for new beginnings. Choose wisely. All my love, Grandma. A knock at the door made me look up. Mother stood there looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. The prosecutor offered a deal, she said quietly. Community service and restitution in exchange for testimony about the bank fraud. I gestured to the bench. She sat, her designer outfit out of place among the garden tools. Did you take it? I asked. Yes. She touched a packet of forget-me-not seeds. Your grandmother tried to warn me, you know, about where all this would lead. But you didn't listen. I was too afraid of losing everything. She met my eyes. Instead, I lost what mattered most. The door creaked open again. Dad stood there, his bookstore apron still on. The board members are arriving, he said, then noticed Mother. Evangeline. Thomas. She stood up. You look well. Being honest with yourself does that. He stepped into the shed. I signed the divorce papers, Mother nodded. I'll have my lawyer review them. She turned to leave, then paused. The roses need pruning. Mom always did it in spring. I know when to prune roses, I said. Of course you do. She taught you everything important, didn't she? After she left, Dad picked up Grandma's old gardening shears. Ready to start planting? Almost. I showed him the letter. She left instructions. He smiled. She always did. Inside the house, voices carried from the study. Jaden was greeting board members for our first official meeting of the Callie Weber Foundation for Financial Justice. Eric had come, bringing documents from the bank's internal investigation. Even Aunt Sawyer was there, finally ready to tell the truth about her role in everything. We should head in, Dad said. Wait. I grabbed a handful of seed packets. We'll need these. For the Foundation's first project. We're turning the back acre into a community garden, a place for people to grow their own food while they rebuild their lives after financial fraud. Dad's eyes crinkled. Mom would love that. In the study, Jaden was explaining our mission. We'll provide legal support, financial counseling, and a safe space for recovery. I set the seeds on the table. And a place to put down new roots. The board members, all survivors of financial fraud themselves, nodded in understanding. Before we begin, I said, I want to share something my grandmother wrote about how truth is like a garden. It needs tending, patience, and sometimes heavy pruning. But with care and courage, it always blooms. Through the window, I could see Mother walking to her car. She stopped to touch one of Grandma's rose bushes, then continued on. Some plants couldn't be saved, but new ones would grow. Let's get started, I told the board. We have a lot of growing to do. Later, as the sun set over the lake, I sat in Grandma's garden with Dad and Jaden. The shed door stood open, ready for tomorrow's planting. Think we'll ever feel normal again? Jaden asked. Normal was overrated, Dad replied. I prefer real. I pulled out Grandma's last letter, reading it one more time. The paper smelled like her garden, earth and hope and possibility. To new beginnings, I said, raising my lemonade glass. To Mom, Dad added. To truth, Jaden finished. The garden stirred in the evening breeze, and somewhere I could swear I heard Grandma laugh, pleased with her final harvest of truth, justice, and love. Not revenge, not destruction, just growth. I tucked the letter away and picked up my garden trowel. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, its own seeds to plant. But tonight, sitting here with my real family, watching the sun paint the lake gold, I knew Grandma had given us everything we needed to bloom. Sometimes the best revenge is simply growing beyond what tried to bury you, and we were finally, truly growing.
Your brother is getting a divorce, so we need you to watch his kids. My mother's voice cut through my phone like a rusty blade. No greeting, no pleasantries. Just another demand disguised as family obligation. Hello to you too, Mom. I balanced the phone between my shoulder and ear while reviewing depositions at my kitchen table. When exactly are we talking about? This weekend. Royal has important legal meetings to attend to, and Caroline is being difficult. That was Zlata's favorite word for any woman who didn't immediately bend to her son's will. My name is Brianna, and I've been hearing that word applied to myself for 35 years. I have work, Mom. I can't just drop everything because work. Her laugh was sharp and dismissive. Brianna, you're a failure with free time. The least you can do is help your brother during this crisis. I set down my pen and stared at the legal brief in front of me. 3 years of law school, passing the bar on my first try, building my own practice from nothing. And to my mother, I was still just the disappointment who couldn't keep her own marriage together. Fine, I said. I'll take the kids. Good. Royal will drop them off Saturday morning. And Brianna... Her voice took on that syrupy tone that always preceded a verbal knife. Try not to fill their heads with your bitter divorced woman nonsense. They need stability right now. The line went dead. I stared at my phone for a long moment, then looked around my modest but comfortable apartment. Law books lined the shelves, case files organized in neat stacks on my desk. This wasn't the life of a failure. This was the life of someone who'd clawed her way up from nothing while her family actively rooted against her. Saturday morning arrived with Royal's signature dramatic flair. He swept into my apartment like he owned the place, designer suit perfectly pressed despite the early hour. Bree, you're a lifesaver, he said, not meeting my eyes. Behind him, 9-year-old Sophia clutched her little brother Bennett's hand. Both kids looked exhausted. Where's Caroline? I asked, kneeling down to Bennett's level. Hey, buddy, you okay? Mommy's sick, Bennett whispered. She's been crying a lot. Royal's jaw tightened. Caroline's having some emotional issues. The stress of everything. You know how women get. I stood up slowly, studying my brother's face. The golden boy. Mom's perfect son. The one who could do no wrong. Even now, watching him dismiss his wife's pain with casual cruelty, I could see why our mother worshipped him. How long do you need me to watch them? Just today. Maybe tonight too, if my meetings run late. He was already heading toward the door. Sophia, Bennett, be good for Aunt Brianna. I'll see you soon. And then he was gone, leaving me with 2 confused, scared children and a growing knot of anger in my stomach. Are you hungry? I asked the kids. I make excellent pancakes. Sophia nodded tentatively. As I moved around the kitchen, I listened to them whisper to each other in the living room. Bennett was asking when Mommy would stop being sad. Sophia was promising him everything would be okay, but her voice shook with uncertainty. These weren't just kids caught in a messy divorce. These were children living in fear, walking on eggshells, trying to make sense of adult cruelty they shouldn't have to understand. After breakfast, while the kids watched cartoons, I stepped onto my balcony and made a phone call. Caroline, it's Brianna. Are you somewhere safe to talk? Her voice was barely a whisper. Yes. The kids. Are they okay? They're fine. They're worried about you. I paused, choosing my words carefully. Caroline, we need to meet. Soon. There are things we need to discuss about your case. My case? Your custody case. The one I'm going to help you win. Silence stretched between us. Then, quietly, you said you couldn't represent family members. I said I couldn't represent Royal. I never said anything about representing you. When I hung up, I walked back to my home office and opened the bottom drawer of my filing cabinet. Inside was a thick folder, labeled Riley Family Communications. Text messages, voicemails, emails, years of documentation I'd been collecting without really knowing why. Now, I knew why. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to my mother's contact. Her last text was from this morning. Don't let the children see you looking so disheveled. Royal needs them to have positive role models right now. I screenshot the message and added it to a new folder on my computer. Exhibit A. Caroline chose a coffee shop 40 minutes from our neighborhood, tucked away in a strip mall where no one would recognize us. When I arrived, she was already there, hunched over an untouched latte, dark circles under her eyes like bruises. Thank you for coming, she whispered as I sat down. How long has this been going on? I asked, cutting straight to the point. Her hands trembled as she reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. Look at these. The text messages from Royal made my stomach turn. You're being hysterical again. The kids don't need to see their mother acting crazy. If you keep this up, I'll make sure you never see them again. My mother thinks you should consider medication for your emotional problems. Caroline, There's more. She scrolled down. Your mother has been texting me too. Zlata's messages were surgical in their cruelty. Royal deserves better than this drama. Think about what's best for the children. Perhaps some time apart would help you gain perspective on your behavior. She's been doing this for months, Caroline said. Every time Royal and I fight, she swoops in with these suggestions about how I should handle things, how I should be grateful, how I'm damaging the children with my instability. I set the phone down carefully. Tell me about the fights. Caroline's voice dropped to barely audible. He doesn't hit me, not exactly, but he'll corner me in rooms, get right in my face when he's angry. He punched the wall next to my head last month, left a hole. Did you document it? I took a picture of the wall. But Brianna, he fixed it the next day and told the kids I'd done it during one of my episodes. She laughed bitterly. Your mother suggested I see a therapist about my destructive tendencies. The familiar burn of rage started in my chest. This was the same playbook they'd used on me during my divorce 3 years ago. When my ex-husband Harrison and I split, my family had immediately assumed I was the problem. Royal had actually told people I was going through a phase and that Harrison was too good for me anyway. What made you reach out to me specifically? I asked. Caroline looked up, and for the first time, I saw steel in her eyes. Harrison referred me to you 6 months ago, when I first started thinking about divorce. Harrison? My ex-husband? We ran into each other at Bennett's school event. I was crying in the parking lot after Royal humiliated me in front of the other parents. Harrison recognized me, Asked if I was okay. She paused. He told me about how your family treated you during your divorce, how they never supported you, never asked for your side of the story. My throat tightened. Harrison had been the only person who'd seen through Royal's charm during our marriage. He'd tried to warn me about my family's toxicity, but I'd been too deep in the fog to listen. He said you were the smartest person he'd ever known, and that if I ever needed a lawyer who understood what it was like to fight this family, I should call you. So you've been planning this? I've been surviving this. Caroline pulled out a small notebook. I started documenting everything after Harrison and I talked. Every cruel comment, every threat, every time your mother interfered in my marriage. She flipped through pages of careful handwriting, dates, times, exact quotes. This wasn't just evidence. This was a woman preparing for war. There's something else, she said, her voice shaking. Last week, Royal told Bennett that if Mommy and Daddy got divorced, it would be Mommy's fault for being mean. Bennett asked me why I wanted to make Daddy sad. Jesus, Caroline. He's turning them against me, Brianna, just like your mother turned your family against you. She leaned forward. But I won't let him win. I can't. I studied her face, the determination mixed with desperation, the way she held herself like someone ready to fight or flee. This wasn't the compliant woman who'd sat quietly through family dinners while Royal dominated every conversation. What do you want from me? I want you to destroy him in court. Her voice was steady now. I want you to use everything you know about how this family operates. Every manipulation, every lie, every cruel thing they've said to you over the years. Caroline, if I take this case, there's no going back. My family will never forgive me. She smiled, and it was sharp as glass. Good. They don't deserve forgiveness. I pulled out my business card and slid it across the table. Then let's burn it all down. As she took the card, her phone buzzed with a text from Royal. Hope you're using this time to think about what's really important. The kids need their mother to be stable. Caroline showed me the screen, then deleted the message. Actually, she said, don't delete that. We're going to need it. 2 weeks into building Caroline's case, she dropped a bombshell that changed everything. He's starting a real estate company, she said, sliding a folder across my desk. Royal Properties LLC, filed the paperwork last month. I opened the folder and scanned the documents. Caroline, your husband works in insurance sales. He doesn't know anything about real estate. Exactly. But look at this. She pointed to a bank statement. He's been moving money into business accounts. Lots of money. Money that should be marital assets. The numbers made my blood run cold. Over $60,000 transferred in the past 6 weeks, all labeled as business investments and startup capital. He's hiding assets, I said. Classic divorce move. Make it look like the money's tied up in a legitimate business venture so it can't be divided. There's more. He's been showing people around town, telling them he's this big real estate mogul now. My neighbor said he tried to get her to invest in some development project. I leaned back in my chair. We need proof that this is fraudulent. Real proof. What kind of proof? The kind where he admits it himself. I picked up my phone. I'm calling Celeste. My best friend answered on the second ring. Please tell me you need me to do something illegal. Not illegal, just morally questionable. Even better. What do you need? Can you meet me for lunch? And bring your acting skills. An hour later, Celeste sat in my office wearing a business suit and fake glasses, looking every inch the successful professional. She'd been my college roommate, my maid of honor, and the only person who'd never bought into my family's version of reality. So I'm a potential investor, she said, reviewing the plan. I have money to throw around, and I'm interested in Royal's real estate empire. Right. But you're also wearing a wire. I held up the tiny recording device. We need him to admit that this whole business is just a way to move money around. And if he doesn't take the bait, then we'll find another way. But Royal's ego is his weakness. He can't resist playing the big shot. Caroline looked nervous. What if he recognizes Celeste? She was at your wedding. That was 8 years ago, and Royal was too busy being the center of attention to notice the bridesmaids. Celeste grinned. Plus, I've changed my hair 3 times since then. The meeting was set for that afternoon at Royal's favorite restaurant, the kind of place where he could hold court and impress people with his supposed success. Celeste went in first, and Caroline and I waited in my car across the street. I can't believe we're doing this, Caroline whispered. You want to protect your kids or not? Through the restaurant window, we could see Royal gesturing animatedly at Celeste, who was nodding and taking notes like an eager investor. My phone buzzed with a text from her. He's taking the bait. This guy is unreal. 20 minutes later, Celeste emerged and got in the back seat of my car. Holy shit, Brianna. Your brother is even worse than you described. What did he say? Everything. He told me the whole business is basically a shell company to protect assets during his unfortunate domestic situation. Those were his exact words. She held up her phone. Got it all recorded. Caroline grabbed the phone and listened to the audio. Royal's voice came through clearly. Between you and me, this divorce is going to get messy. My wife's lawyer doesn't understand business structures, so having everything tied up in the company protects me from losing half of everything I've worked for. He actually said that? Caroline's voice was shaking with rage. Oh, it gets better, Celeste continued. He also said, and I quote, "Women get emotional during divorce proceedings. They don't think strategically like men do." Then he winked at me. I'm going to kill him, Caroline muttered. No, you're going to let me destroy him legally. It's much more satisfying. I started the car. We need to get this to my office and make copies. As we drove, my phone rang. Mom's contact photo filled the screen, a formal family portrait where she's positioned right next to Royal, both of them smiling while I'm half hidden in the back. Brianna, I need to talk to you about your attitude lately. My attitude? Royal mentioned that you've been asking Caroline inappropriate questions about their marriage. This is none of your business. I pulled over and put the phone on speaker so Caroline could hear. What kind of questions? Legal questions. About their finances and personal matters. You're not her lawyer, Brianna. You're family. Act like it. Caroline's eyes widened. Royal had told our mother about our meetings, but he'd obviously spun it to make me look like the problem. Mom, I'm just trying to help. You're trying to insert yourself into drama that doesn't concern you. Royal is handling this divorce properly, through appropriate channels. He doesn't need his unstable sister stirring up trouble. There it was. Unstable. The word that had followed me my entire adult life. I have to go, Mom. Brianna, I'm serious. Stay out of this. Royal has enough stress without you making things worse. I hung up and immediately screenshot the call log, adding it to my growing evidence file. She called you unstable, Caroline said quietly. She's been calling me that for years. Every time I disagree with Royal, every time I don't fall in line with the family narrative. I looked at her in the rearview mirror. But now we're going to use it against them. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Your brother is going through enough without your interference. Some things are more important than your need for attention. I showed the message to Caroline and Celeste. Jesus, Celeste said. No wonder you're so fucked up about family stuff. Save it, I told Caroline as she started to apologize. We're adding it to the pile. The pile? Every cruel text, every dismissive comment, every time they've made you or me feel crazy for seeing the truth. I smiled grimly. They're about to learn that their words have consequences. The motion to remove me from Caroline's case arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by a courier who looked apologetic about the whole thing. Royal had hired Marcus Webb, the most expensive divorce attorney in the city, and their first move was to claim conflict of interest. "They're saying you can't represent me because you're Royal's sister," Caroline said, pacing around my office. "Can they do that? They can try." I flipped through the legal filing. But family relationships don't automatically create conflicts of interest in divorce cases. We just have to prove I can represent you competently and ethically. What if the judge agrees with them? Then we find you another lawyer and I help from behind the scenes. I looked up at her. But I don't think that's going to happen. The hearing was scheduled for Friday morning. I spent the week preparing my defense, knowing that Royal and his expensive lawyer would try to paint me as emotionally compromised and unprofessional. Friday arrived grey and drizzling. As I walked up the courthouse steps, I spotted my mother standing near the entrance, dressed in her best black suit like she was attending a funeral. "Brianna." She intercepted me before I could reach the doors. "We need to talk." "I have a hearing to get to, Mom. About this nonsense with Caroline. You're embarrassing the family." "I'm doing my job." She grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "Your job is to support your family, not tear it apart. Royal is your brother, your blood. And what about Caroline? What about those kids?" Caroline made her choices. She married into this family, and now she wants to destroy it because she can't handle being a proper wife. Zlata's voice dropped to a hiss. "But you're supposed to be loyal. You're supposed to understand what family means." I pulled my arm free. "I understand exactly what this family means, Mom. That's why I'm here." Inside the courtroom, Royal sat at the plaintiff's table with Marcus Webb, looking confident and composed. He nodded at me like we were old friends meeting for lunch instead of adversaries in a legal battle. Judge Patricia Morrison called the hearing to order. She was known for being no-nonsense and impatient with frivolous motions. "Mr. Webb, you're claiming that Ms. Brianna Riley cannot ethically represent the defendant due to familial relationships. Please state your case." Webb stood, all polish and expensive suit. "Your Honor, Ms. Riley's judgment is clearly compromised by her personal relationship with both parties. She has intimate knowledge of family dynamics that could prejudice her representation of Mrs. Caroline Riley." "And how exactly does this create an ethical violation, Mr. Webb?" "Ms. Riley has a documented history of mental instability and conflicts with her family. Her own mother will testify that she's been acting erratically and making inappropriate inquiries into private family matters." I felt Caroline tense beside me. This was exactly what we'd expected. They were going to use my family's own words against me. Judge Morrison looked at me. "Ms. Riley, how do you respond?" I stood, keeping my voice steady and professional. "Your Honor, Mr. Webb's motion is without merit. There is no ethical rule preventing me from representing Mrs. Caroline Riley, simply because I'm related to her husband. In fact, my knowledge of the family dynamics makes me uniquely qualified to represent her interests." "But surely your personal feelings toward your brother—" "My personal feelings are irrelevant, Your Honor. I'm bound by the same ethical obligations as any attorney. I will represent my client zealously within the bounds of the law." Webb jumped back up. "Your Honor, we have evidence that Ms. Riley has been encouraging Mrs. Riley to make false accusations against her husband. She's clearly using this case to settle personal scores." "What evidence, Mr. Webb?" "We called Zlata Riley to testify about her daughter's recent behavior. My mother walked to the witness stand like she was approaching a throne. She raised her right hand and swore to tell the truth, then looked directly at me with cold satisfaction. "Mrs. Riley," Webb began, "can you describe your daughter Brianna's recent behavior regarding this divorce?" "She's been obsessed with destroying her brother. She's always been jealous of Royal's success, And now she's using Caroline to get revenge. Has she made any statements to you about this case? She told me she was going to burn it all down. Those were her exact words. Zlata's voice carried perfectly through the courtroom. She's always been unstable, especially since her own divorce. She can't handle seeing other people happy. Caroline grabbed my hand under the table, but I squeezed back reassuringly. Mrs. Riley, I said when it was my turn to cross-examine, when you say I'm unstable, can you provide specific examples? You've been acting erratically, asking inappropriate questions. What questions specifically? About Royal's business affairs? About private conversations? You mean questions about potential asset hiding and emotional abuse? Webb objected, but Judge Morrison overruled him. Mrs. Riley, are you aware that asking questions about asset disclosure and domestic relations is part of standard divorce proceedings? Zlata faltered. Well, yes, but... And when you say I told you I would burn it all down, were you aware that I was referring to fraudulent business practices and documented emotional abuse? Objection, Your Honor. Leading the witness. Sustained. Ms. Riley, rephrase. Mrs. Riley, what exactly did you think I meant when I said I would burn it all down? My mother's composure cracked slightly. I assumed you meant the family, that you wanted to hurt Royal. Did it occur to you that I might have meant I would expose illegal activities? Objection! Judge Morrison banged her gavel. That's enough. Mr. Webb, your motion is denied. Ms. Riley may continue representing her client. This hearing is adjourned. As people filed out of the courtroom, Royal approached me. Nice show, Bree, but this is just the beginning. I'm counting on it. He leaned closer, his voice dropping. You have no idea what you're getting into. Family is everything, and you just chose the wrong side. No, Royal, I finally chose the right one. That weekend, I spread everything across my dining room table like a war room. Text messages, emails, voicemails, bank statements, photos, years of documentation that told the real story of the Riley family dynamics. Caroline sat across from me, staring at a particularly vicious text from Zlata. Your emotional outbursts are damaging the children. Royal deserves a stable home environment. I can't believe I saved all of these, Caroline said. Thank God you did. I held up my phone, scrolling through my own collection. Look at this one from last Christmas. Mom texted me. Try not to bring your bitter divorced energy to dinner. The children don't need to see that kind of negativity. She actually wrote that? She writes a lot of things. I pulled out a thick binder. 3 years of documentation. Every cruel comment, every dismissal, every time they made me feel like I was crazy for seeing what was really happening. Caroline picked up a printed email. This is from Royal to your mother. Brianna is spiraling again. Maybe we should stage an intervention about her mental health. That was when I started law school. Apparently wanting to better myself was a sign of instability. The doorbell rang, and Celeste walked in carrying Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine. How's the evidence compilation going? She asked, setting the food down. We have enough to bury him, I said. But Caroline's getting cold feet. Caroline looked up sharply. I'm not getting cold feet. I'm just... This feels so nuclear. It is nuclear, Celeste said, opening the wine. That's the point. But what if we're going too far? What if this ruins Royal's reputation permanently? I set down the document I was reading and looked at her directly. Caroline, what did Royal tell Bennett last week? She winced. That Mommy was sick in the head, and that's why she was being mean to Daddy. And what did your mother-in-law tell Sophia? That if I really loved my children, I would stop causing problems for the family. And what happened when you tried to take the kids to your sister's house for the weekend? Caroline's voice got smaller. Royal said I was trying to alienate them from their father. He threatened to call the police and report me for kidnapping. Celeste poured 3 glasses of wine. Honey, this man has been systematically destroying your credibility and turning your own children against you. He doesn't deserve your protection, but the kids will see all of this someday. They'll know what their father really is. They already know, I said gently. They're living it every day. The question is whether you want them to keep living it. Caroline was quiet for a long moment, then picked up another text message. This one was from Royal to her. Keep acting crazy and see what happens. I have lawyers, and you have nothing. He sent this 2 weeks ago, she said, after you asked him about the missing money from your joint account? Yes. I questioned why $5,000 disappeared, and he told me I was being paranoid and controlling. She looked at the message again. Then he sent this. I pulled out my laptop and opened a new document. We're going to use every single one of these. But Caroline, once we do this, there's no going back. Your marriage is over, and Royal will never forgive you. My marriage was over the moment he decided I was the enemy instead of his partner. Caroline picked up her wine glass. What do you need me to do? First, we need you to record the next family dinner. Record it? Your phone, in your purse. We need to capture how they actually talk to you and the kids when they think no one's listening. Celeste leaned forward. What about getting Royal to admit more stuff on tape? Too risky now. He's suspicious after the investor meeting. I pulled out a legal pad. But we have something better. Caroline, tell me about the garage incident. Caroline's face went pale. How did you... Sophia mentioned it to Bennett while they were at my place. She said Daddy locked her in the garage because she was being too loud. It was only for 20 minutes, Caroline said quickly, then caught herself. God listened to me. I'm making excuses for him. What exactly happened? Sophia was having a meltdown about going to bed. She was crying and screaming, and Royal just snapped. He picked her up and put her in the garage, turned off the lights and locked the door. Where were you? Upstairs with Bennett. I didn't know until I heard her screaming from outside. Caroline's hands were shaking. When I ran down and demanded he let her out, he said she needed to learn that actions have consequences. Did you document this? I took pictures of her afterwards. She had scratches on her arms from trying to get out, and she wet herself from fear. Celeste set down her wine glass hard. Jesus Christ, Caroline, that's child abuse. I know it is. But Royal said if I ever told anyone, he'd make sure I never saw the kids again. He said no one would believe me over him. I looked at the photos on Caroline's phone. Sophia's tear-streaked face, the scratches on her little arms, the wet pajamas. We're using this, I said firmly. But what if the judge thinks I'm a bad mother for not protecting her? The judge is going to think Royal is a dangerous father who shouldn't have unsupervised access to children. I saved the photos to my laptop. Caroline, this isn't about protecting Royal's reputation anymore. This is about protecting your kids. She nodded slowly, then pulled out her phone and started scrolling through more messages. There's something else, she said. Royal's been telling people that you're the one encouraging me to make false accusations. He's setting you up to look like the vindictive sister who's manipulating his poor, unstable wife. Let him try. I have 3 years of law school and a bar license. He has charm and a fake real estate company. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. I hope you're proud of yourself. You're destroying your brother's life for attention. I screenshot the message and added it to our evidence file. Actually, I said, he's making this easier for us. Every lie he tells, every manipulation he tries, it's all going to come back to haunt him in court. Caroline raised her wine glass. To burning it all down. To protecting those kids, I corrected. Same thing, Celeste said, and we all drank to that. The night before the custody trial, Royal showed up at my apartment at 11 p.m. I could smell the alcohol through the door before I even opened it. "We need to talk," he slurred, pushing past me into my living room. "Royal, you're drunk. You need to leave. You think you're so smart, don't you?" He spun around, pointing at me with unsteady fingers. "Little Brianna, finally getting her revenge. I'm representing my client, that's all." "Bullshit!" He moved closer, and I could see the rage in his bloodshot eyes. "You've always been jealous of me, always wanted what I had." "What you had? You mean the fake business? The emotionally abused wife? The terrified children?" His face darkened. "Those are my kids, Brianna. Mine. And if you think some bitter divorced bitch is going to take them from me, you're even stupider than Mom thinks you are. Get out of my apartment, Royal. Or what? You'll call the cops?" He laughed harshly. "Who do you think they'll believe? The successful businessman or his crazy sister who's been stalking his family?" I pulled out my phone and started recording. "I'm asking you to leave. Now. Put that fucking phone away." He lunged for it, but I stepped back. This is exactly what Caroline deals with, isn't it? The threats, the intimidation, the gaslighting. Caroline is unstable. She needs help, not some ambulance-chasing lawyer filling her head with lies. "What lies, Royal? The financial records, the text messages, the photos of Sophia after you locked her in the garage?" His face went white. "She told you about that?" "She told me about all of it. That was... Sophia was having a tantrum. I was teaching her discipline. You locked a 9-year-old in a dark garage until she wet herself from terror. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Explain it to me." Royal ran his hands through his hair, suddenly looking less drunk and more desperate. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Caroline's been impossible to live with. The kids are acting out because she's filling their heads with poison about me. So you decided to traumatize your daughter? I made a mistake, okay? One mistake. But Caroline's been documenting everything, twisting everything to make me look like some kind of monster. You're a monster, Royal." He stepped toward me again, his voice dropping to a whisper. "If you go through with this tomorrow, you'll never be welcome in this family again. Mom will cut you off completely. You'll be alone, just like you were after your divorce. I was alone during my divorce because you all chose sides before you even heard what happened. Because we knew you, Brianna. We knew you were the problem." I stopped recording and looked at him with something that might have been pity. "Get out. This isn't over." "Yes, it is." After he left, I called Caroline and played her the recording. "Oh my God," she whispered. "He actually admitted to the garage incident. And threatened me, and basically confessed that the family has been gaslighting you." I saved the audio file. "We're using this tomorrow. Brianna, are you sure you want to do this? He's right about one thing. Your family will never forgive you. Caroline, my family stopped being my family a long time ago. They just never bothered to tell me." The next morning, the courthouse was packed. Royal sat with Marcus Webb, looking composed and professional in his best suit. My mother was in the gallery, along with several family friends who'd come to support the Golden Boy. Judge Morrison called the court to order. "This is a custody hearing in the matter of Caroline Riley versus Royal Riley. Ms. Brianna Riley, you may present your opening statement." I stood, looking directly at Royal. "Your Honor, this case is about protecting 2 innocent children from a pattern of emotional abuse, financial manipulation, and psychological terrorism that has been enabled and encouraged by multiple family members." Webb objected. "Your Honor, that's inflammatory language. Overruled. Continue, Ms. Riley." "The evidence will show that Mr. Royal Riley has systematically isolated his wife, hidden marital assets, threatened her with loss of custody, and subjected his children to psychological abuse. Furthermore, his mother, Zlata Riley, has actively participated in this campaign of intimidation. I walked to the evidence table. We have documented text messages, recorded conversations, financial records, and photographic evidence of the harm Mr. Riley has caused to this family. Mr. Webb, your opening statement? Webb stood smoothly. Your Honor, this is nothing more than a vindictive attack orchestrated by a bitter sister-in-law who has manipulated a troubled woman into making false accusations. Mrs. Caroline Riley has a documented history of emotional instability, and Ms. Brianna Riley has a personal vendetta against her own brother. The first witness was Caroline. She took the stand with quiet dignity, her voice steady as she described years of manipulation and control. Can you tell the court about the garage incident? I asked. Caroline's voice broke slightly. Royal locked our daughter Sophia in the garage for 20 minutes because she was crying at bedtime. She was scratching at the door, screaming to be let out. When I found her, she had wet herself from fear. Did you document this incident? Yes. Caroline identified the photos, which were entered into evidence. Webb's cross-examination was brutal. Mrs. Riley, isn't it true that you've been seeing a therapist for depression and anxiety? Yes. And isn't it true that your own mother-in-law has expressed concerns about your mental state? Zlata has made comments, yes. Comments such as calling you unstable and unfit to care for the children. I objected, but the damage was done. When Zlata took the stand as Royal's character witness, she painted a picture of Caroline as an unfit mother and me as a manipulative troublemaker. Brianna has always been jealous of Royal, she testified. She's using this poor woman to get revenge on her own family. Mrs. Riley, I said during cross-examination, you sent my client a text message saying, if you really loved your children, you would stop causing problems for the family. Do you remember that? I was trying to help her see reason. By threatening her relationship with her children? I wasn't threatening anyone. I pulled out my phone. Your Honor, I'd like to play a recording made last night. Webb objected frantically, but Judge Morrison allowed it. Royal's drunken voice filled the courtroom. Those are my kids, Brianna. Mine. And if you think some bitter divorced bitch is going to take them from me, you're even stupider than Mom thinks you are. The gallery erupted. Zlata's face went ashen as she heard her son's true voice. Mrs. Riley, I continued, does this sound like a man who should have unsupervised access to children? She couldn't answer. When court adjourned for the day, I saw Sophia in the hallway with the court-appointed guardian. She looked up at me with those big, serious eyes. Aunt Brianna, she whispered, can we stay with you tonight? We'll see, sweetheart. We'll see. The second day of trial opened with my closing argument. I'd spent all night crafting it, knowing this was my one chance to lay bare everything the Riley family had hidden for years. Your Honor, I began, this case isn't just about a custody dispute. It's about breaking a cycle of generational abuse that has been normalized, enabled, and perpetuated by multiple family members. I walked to the evidence table, picking up the binder of text messages. These communications show a pattern of psychological manipulation designed to make Mrs. Caroline Riley question her own reality. When she expressed concerns about her husband's behavior, she was told she was overreacting. When she documented financial irregularities, she was called paranoid. When she tried to protect her children, she was labeled unstable. Judge Morrison leaned forward, listening intently. The defendant's own mother sent text messages telling Mrs. Riley that if she really loved her children, she would stop causing problems. This is textbook emotional abuse, making the victim responsible for the abuser's actions. I held up the photos of Sophia. When Mr. Riley locked his 9-year-old daughter in a dark garage until she urinated from terror, he wasn't teaching discipline. He was teaching fear. And when his wife tried to address this incident, the family closed ranks to protect him and silence her. Webb objected. Your Honor, Ms. Riley is making speeches, not legal arguments. Overruled. Continue, Ms. Riley. The financial evidence shows systematic asset hiding through a fraudulent business entity. We have recorded admissions from Mr. Riley himself that this company exists solely to protect assets during his unfortunate domestic situation. I played Celeste's recording again, Royal's voice echoing through the courtroom. Women get emotional during divorce proceedings. They don't think strategically like men do. This is how Mr. Riley views his wife, not as an equal partner, but as an emotional liability to be managed and controlled. I turned to face Royal directly. But perhaps most damning is the recording from 2 nights ago, where Mr. Riley, intoxicated and angry, revealed his true feelings about this custody dispute. The audio played again. Those are my kids, Brianna. Mine. And if you think some bitter divorced bitch is going to take them from me, you're even stupider than Mom thinks you are. Several people in the gallery gasped. Royal's face was stone, but I could see the panic in his eyes. Your Honor, children are not possessions to be owned. They are human beings who deserve protection from adults who view them as trophies in a power struggle. I walked back to the counsel table. Mrs. Riley isn't asking this court to punish her husband. She's asking for the safety and well-being of 2 children who have already suffered enough. The evidence is clear. Mr. Riley poses a psychological and emotional danger to these children, and his family system enables and encourages this abuse. I ask this court to grant Mrs. Riley full custody, with supervised visitation only for Mr. Riley, pending completion of anger management and parenting classes. I sat down, my heart pounding. Webb's closing was predictable, attacking Caroline's mental health, questioning my motives, painting Royal as a loving father caught in a vindictive ex-wife's web of lies. Your Honor, Ms. Brianna Riley has orchestrated this entire proceeding to settle personal scores with her own family. She's manipulated a troubled woman into making false accusations against a devoted father. But his words felt hollow after everything the court had heard. Judge Morrison retired to consider her decision. The wait felt eternal. When she returned, the courtroom was silent. In the matter of Riley versus Riley, this court finds that the evidence presented demonstrates a pattern of emotional abuse, financial manipulation, and psychological intimidation that poses a clear danger to the minor children. Royal's face went white. Mrs. Caroline Riley is hereby granted full physical and legal custody of Bennett Riley and Sophia Riley. Mr. Royal Riley is granted supervised visitation only, contingent upon completion of court-ordered psychological evaluation, anger management counseling, and parenting classes. The gavel came down with finality. Caroline collapsed into sobs of relief. Behind us, I heard Zlata's sharp intake of breath. As people filed out of the courtroom, my mother approached me, her face a mask of cold fury. "You've destroyed your brother," she hissed. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not a mother, but a woman who had spent decades protecting a son who didn't deserve protection while sacrificing a daughter who needed support. No, Mom. I just gave Karma a microphone. Don't you dare speak to me like that. After everything this family has done for you. What has this family done for me? I interrupted. Tell me one time, one single time, when you chose to support me instead of Royal. She opened her mouth, then closed it. When I got divorced, you told people I was going through a phase. When I went to law school, you said I was having a breakdown. When I tried to build my own practice, you called it a hobby. My voice was steady, controlled. You've spent 35 years telling me I wasn't good enough, smart enough, stable enough to matter. Well, guess what? I just proved you wrong. Brianna, we're done, Mom. We've been done for years. I just finally realized it. I walked away, leaving her standing alone in the empty courtroom. Outside, Caroline was hugging her children, tears streaming down her face. Sophia looked up at me with those serious eyes. "Are we safe now, Aunt Brianna?" "Yes, sweetheart. You're safe now." As we walked toward the parking garage, I pulled out my phone and deleted my mother's contact information. The last voicemail from her, a rambling message about family loyalty and forgiveness, went straight to digital trash. No more chains, no more guilt, no more pretending that blood relations meant more than basic human decency. I was finally free. The knock on my office door came on a Thursday afternoon, 3 weeks after the trial. I looked up from my case files to see Caroline standing there with Sophia and Bennett, all three of them carrying wrapped packages. "We brought you something," Sophia announced, marching into my office like she owned the place. "You didn't have to—" "Yes, we did," Caroline interrupted, setting a small gift bag on my desk. "Open it." Inside was a framed drawing in Sophia's careful 9-year-old handwriting. It showed stick figures of her, Bennett, Caroline, and me, all holding hands under a rainbow. At the bottom, she'd written, "Aunt Bree keeps us safe." "Sophia made that for you," Bennett said proudly. "And I helped with the rainbow." I felt my throat tighten. "This is beautiful, guys. Thank you." "There's more," Caroline said, pulling out a larger package. "This one's from me." It was a bottle of expensive champagne with a note attached. "For the woman who taught me that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when it matters." "Caroline, you don't need to thank me. I was just doing my job." "Bullshit," she said, then glanced at the kids. "I mean, baloney. You saved our lives, Brianna. All of our lives." Sophia climbed into the chair across from my desk. "Mommy says we don't have to see Daddy unless we want to." "That's right, sweetheart. And only with other grown-ups there to make sure everyone's safe." "Good," Bennett said firmly. "Daddy was scary when he got mad." Caroline and I exchanged a look. The kids were already healing, already speaking their truth without fear. "How are the supervised visits going?" I asked Caroline quietly. "Royals missed the last 2. His lawyer says he's processing the court's decision." She rolled her eyes. Translation: he's sulking because he didn't get his way. My phone rang, and I glanced at the caller ID. Unknown number, but the area code was local. "Brianna Riley Law Office." "Ms. Riley? My name is Jessica Martinez. I got your number from Caroline Riley. I need help with a custody case." I motioned for Caroline to wait. "What's your situation, Jessica?" "My husband's family is trying to take my kids away from me. They're saying I'm an unfit mother because I work 2 jobs and can't afford their private school anymore. His mother keeps texting me about how I'm damaging the children with my instability." The familiar pattern made my blood run cold. "Jessica, can you come in tomorrow morning? 10 a.m.? "Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much." After I hung up, Caroline was smiling. "Another one? Another one." I looked at Sophia's drawing again. Words getting around, apparently. "Good. There are a lot of women out there who need someone like you in their corner." Celeste appeared in my doorway, carrying coffee and wearing a satisfied grin. "I just saw the news about Royal's business license being revoked. Turns out the state doesn't appreciate fraudulent real estate companies." "Really? Really? He's also facing potential charges for filing false business documents." She handed me a coffee. "Karma's working overtime these days." Bennett tugged on my sleeve. "Aunt Bree, can we come visit you again soon?" "Anytime you want, buddy. My door is always open for you guys." Caroline gathered up the kids' backpacks. "We should let you get back to work. But Brianna, thank you. For everything." After they left, I sat alone in my office, looking at Sophia's drawing. 3 weeks ago, I'd been the family disappointment, the unstable sister who couldn't keep her own life together. Now I had a thriving practice, clients who trusted me, and the respect of my peers. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Zlata. We need to talk about repairing this family." I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. The next morning, Jessica Martinez sat across from my desk, her hands shaking as she showed me text messages from her mother-in-law. The words were different, but the pattern was identical. Gaslighting, manipulation, threats disguised as concern for the children. "They keep saying I'm being selfish," Jessica whispered. "That if I really loved my kids, I'd let them live with people who can provide properly for them." "Jessica, let me ask you something. Do your children feel safe with you?" "Yes, they tell me everything. They come to me when they're scared or hurt or happy." "Then you're not the problem." I pulled out a legal pad. "Tell me everything. Start from the beginning." As Jessica began her story, I thought about Sophia's drawing, about Caroline's strength, about the chain of women who would find their way to my office because someone had finally stood up and said, "Enough." My phone rang again. Another unknown number, another woman's voice asking for help. I smiled as I scheduled the appointment. "Let's burn another legacy down," I said quietly, and got back to work.
The cardboard box holding everything I own feels impossibly light in my arms as I stand on my mother's doorstep. Rain drips from my hair, each drop a reminder of how far I've fallen. My name is Sarah, and this wasn't how my life was supposed to go. "Mum!" I call out, knocking again. The porch light flickers on, and I hear the deadbolt turn. "Sarah!" My mother's face appears, perfectly made up despite the late hour. Her expression shifts from surprise to something else, something colder. "What are you doing here?" "I lost my job. The startup went under and—" I swallow hard. "I had to leave my apartment. I just need to stay in my old room for a few weeks while I figure things out." She doesn't move to let me in. "Oh, sweetie, that's not possible." "What do you mean?" "Well, come see for yourself." She steps aside, finally allowing me into the house I grew up in. I follow her upstairs, my wet shoes squeaking against the hardwood. The door to my childhood bedroom stands open, but instead of my familiar space, I find an empty room. No furniture, no photos, no trace of me. "Where's all my stuff?" My voice comes out smaller than I intend. We needed the space for Evan's wedding preparations. And honestly, the furniture helped offset some of the costs. That destination wedding in Bali isn't paying for itself. She laughs like she's sharing a joke. "You sold my things?" The box in my arms suddenly feels heavy. "You weren't using them, dear, and Evan needed the help. It's a $90,000 wedding. Your brother only gets married once." I set my box down before my shaking hands drop it. "Where are Dad's letters?" "Oh, those old things. They were just taking up space in that ratty shoebox." The room spins. "You sold Dad's letters?" "Donated them with the rest of the junk." "Really, Sarah? You should have taken them when you left for college if they meant that much to you." Footsteps thunder up the stairs, and Evan appears in the doorway, grinning. "Little sis, what brings you to our neck of the woods?" "Did you know about this?" I gesture to the empty room. "Did you know Mom sold everything?" He shrugs, checking his phone. "Hey, you're the one who chose that fancy tech startup over a real job." Some of us actually plan ahead. "I needed help," I whisper. "I just needed a place to stay. Maybe you should have made better choices." He doesn't even look up from his screen. "Not everyone can afford to make mistakes, Sarah." "Evan's right," Mum adds. "You're 27. It's time to grow up and stop expecting handouts." I look between them, my golden boy brother and my status-obsessed mother, and something inside me breaks, and then hardens. "I'll leave," I say quietly. "That would be best," Mum agrees. "We have the wedding planner coming early tomorrow to discuss the ceremony. We can't have—" She waves a hand at me, this situation distracting from Evan's big day. I pick up my box and walk downstairs, my feet moving on autopilot. Behind me, I hear them discussing flower arrangements like I never existed. The rain has turned into a downpour when I reach my car. I slide into the driver's seat, box on my lap, and stare at my phone. My mother's contact information glows on the screen. "Mom." My thumb hovers over the delete button. "You don't belong here anymore," she had said. Like I was nothing more than another piece of furniture to be disposed of when inconvenient. I delete her contact. Then Evans. The rain drums against my car roof as I pull into a Walmart parking lot. It's nearly midnight, and the lot is mostly empty. Safe enough to sleep, I hope. I recline my seat and try to get comfortable, knowing this is my new reality. In the distance, I see a family loading groceries into their minivan, laughing together under shared umbrellas. My chest aches with something deeper than hunger or cold. I pull out my phone one last time and open my banking app. $247.13 total. Not even enough for a week at the cheapest motel. Okay, I whisper to myself, fog forming on the windows around me. Okay, Sarah. You have two choices. You can break down crying, or you can start planning. I open a new Google Doc and title it Survival Strategy. The blue cursor blinks at me, waiting. Outside, the rain continues to fall, but inside my car, my new home, something else is falling into place. A plan, a purpose, and maybe, just maybe, a promise of revenge. The McDonald's Wi-Fi cuts out again, and I stifle a groan. 3 weeks of homelessness has taught me their connection drops every 45 minutes like clockwork. I save my work and check the time. 5:47 a.m. The morning rush will start soon. More coffee, honey? Linda, the morning shift manager, appears with a pot. She's been pretending not to notice I've been here since 4 a.m. Thanks. I push my cup forward. Actually, could I ask you something? Do you know if anyone's hiring around here? She glances at my laptop screen, filled with half-finished job applications. The office building across the street needs cleaning staff. Night shift. Not glamorous, but it's something, I nod, adding it to my list. My college degree feels worthless now, but pride won't keep me warm at night. The bathroom mirror at the Shell station has become my morning routine spot. I wash my face, brush my teeth, and try to make my hair look presentable. The attendant, Mike, pretends not to see me. "Hey!" a voice startles me as I'm fixing my blazer. An older woman in scrubs stands in the doorway. "You can use the employee shower in the back." It's cleaner. I freeze, embarrassment burning my cheeks. "I'm not..." "Honey, I've been there." "Keys behind the counter." Mike knows. I whisper a thank you, fighting back tears. Later that day, I sit in my car between interviews, watching finance videos on YouTube. 5 Ways to Build Wealth from Nothing plays on my phone while I eat a $1 menu burger. Step 1. Cut all unnecessary expenses, the host says. I laugh bitterly. Check. Step 2. Learn high-income skill. I pause the video and open my notebook. The list of potential skills grows. Copywriting, social media management, digital marketing, things I can learn for free online. A knock on my window makes me jump. A police officer stands outside, flashlight in hand. "Evening, miss. Everything okay?" "Yes, officer. I was just..." The lies die in my throat. He studies my car, the neatly folded blanket in the back seat, the small toiletry bag, the laptop. "You can't stay here overnight," he says, but his tone is gentle. There's a safer spot behind the library. Security doesn't check there. I nod, unable to speak. "And miss," he hesitates. "Look into copywriting. My daughter does it, makes good money." All those businesses need someone to write their stuff. That night, in my new parking spot behind the library, I dive into copywriting tutorials. Hours pass as I study headlines, sales psychology, persuasion techniques. I create sample pieces, build a basic portfolio website, and start pitching on freelance sites. The rejections pile up, 20, 30, 40 no's. But I keep pitching. My phone buzzes. A notification from Instagram. My mother has posted photos from Evan's wedding shower. "Beautiful day with family." The comments are full of heart emojis and congratulations. I throw my phone onto the passenger seat and attack my laptop with renewed fury. Another pitch, another application, another tutorial. Days blur together. McDonald's Wi-Fi, Shell station showers, library parking lot, repeat. Then it happens. "Hi Sarah, I love your sample work. Would you be interested in writing product descriptions for my jewellery store? $500 for the first batch. I read the email 7 times. My hands shake as I reply, trying to sound professional instead of desperate. The client pays immediately. Sitting in my car, staring at the PayPal notification, I break down. $500. Real money. Real work. Thank you, I whisper to no one, tears streaming down my face. Thank you. That night, I create a strict schedule. 4 a.m. Wake up 4:30 and 8 a.m. Write at McDonald's. 9 a.m. to p.m. Job interviews. Client work. 3 p.m. 7 p.m. Learn new skills at library. 8 p.m. 10 p.m. Send pictures. 11 p.m. Sleep. I delete Netflix from my phone. Cancel Spotify. Every dollar goes to either food or gas. A week later, another client. Then another. Small jobs, but they add up. I'm finishing a project at McDonald's when Linda appears with more coffee. You're different, she says, studying me. Last month you looked scared. Now you look determined, I finish for her. She nods. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I look at my notebook, filled with plans and goals. The latest entry catches my eye. First goal, $5,000 in savings. My phone buzzes again. Another Instagram notification. Missing our beautiful daughter at the wedding planning weekend. Some of us just have different priorities. I close Instagram and open my email instead. 3 new client inquiries wait in my inbox. Different priorities, I whisper, cracking my knuckles and starting to type. You have no idea. You're doing it wrong, Sarah Bear. Evan laughs in my memory. We're 12 and 17, and he's teaching me to ride his old skateboard. His hands steady my shoulders as I wobble. I've got you, sis. Always will. The memory fades as I scrub another office toilet. It's 2 a.m, and the cleaning job pays cash, enough to finally rent a room in a shared house next month if I keep at it. Miss? A voice startles me. An older man in an expensive suit stands in the doorway. You're new here? Yes, sir. Just started last week. He studies me, noting my careful pronunciation, the laptop bag visible through the bathroom door. You don't seem like our usual cleaning staff. Life takes unexpected turns, sir. Indeed. He extends his hand. I'm Jesus Fernandez. I own this building. I quickly peel off my rubber glove to shake his hand. Sarah! Tell me, Sarah, what's in the laptop bag? My other work. I'm a copywriter during the day. His eyebrows rise. Interesting combination. Come to my office when you're done here. Let's talk. 2 hours later, I'm sitting across from Jesus, explaining digital marketing while he sips espresso. So, you understand modern business, he says thoughtfully. But you're cleaning toilets at night. I need capital to start investing. Every dollar counts. He nods slowly. I mentor young entrepreneurs sometimes. We could meet weekly, if you're interested. Talk strategy. My heart races. I'd be honoured, sir. My phone buzzes. Another Instagram notification. Mum's posted photos from Bali. Wedding venue shopping with my loves. Our beautiful daughter couldn't make it. Again. Jesus notices my expression darken. Family troubles? They're why I work so hard, I say quietly. He studies me for a long moment. Success is the best revenge, Sarah. Let's make sure yours is spectacular. The next months blur into a routine of work and learning. Jesus teaches me about investment strategies during our late-night meetings. I absorb everything. Cryptocurrency, digital products, personal branding. One night, while cleaning the executive floor, I find a box by the dumpster. Inside are dozens of old letters, someone's memorabilia being thrown away. It triggers something. Mum, I whisper, remembering Dad's letters she so casually disposed of. How could you? I call Heidi, my cousin, for the first time since everything happened. Sarah? Is it really you? Did Mum keep anything from my room? Any boxes of Dad's stuff? A long pause. I'm sorry, Sarah. She had a yard sale. I saw her selling some old letters for 50 cents each. I didn't know. The phone slips from my hand. 50 cents. My father's last words, sold to strangers for pocket change. That night, I create a new Instagram account. Financial Freedom Queen. Anonymous. Professional. I share my story without names. A post about family betrayal and homelessness that goes viral overnight. How did you survive? Commenters ask. I start sharing everything I've learned. Investment strategies, side hustles, digital marketing tips. My follower count explodes. Jesus helps me set up my first online course. From rock bottom to rising star. It sells out in hours. Good, he says, reviewing the numbers. Now multiply it. Create more products. I build an empire. Months become a year. My bank account grows. I move from the shared house to a small apartment downtown, then a better one. Mum keeps posting, another beautiful day in paradise, planning the perfect wedding for my perfect son. I channel every post into work. Every smug photo becomes another product launch. Every cruel comment fuels another investment. One evening, Jesus calls an unexpected meeting. You've done well, he says, sliding a folder across his desk. I think it's time we discussed angel investing. Inside is a contract he wants to invest in my business. 7 figures? Why? I ask. Because you remind me of myself. And because revenge is a powerful motivator when channeled correctly, I sign the papers. That night, I find a comment from Evan on my latest Instagram post. Must be nice having time to post while some of us work real jobs. Mum says hi. He doesn't realise he's commenting on his sister's account. Doesn't recognise that the anonymous entrepreneur he's mocking is the same person they threw away. I open my laptop and start writing a new course outline. Building generational wealth. The kind of wealth that would make my family choke on their words. My phone pings with a Zillow notification. A Mediterranean mansion just listed in my old neighbourhood. 5 minutes from Mum's house. The price? 3.2 million. I stare at the listing photos, a plan forming. The ultimate revenge isn't just success. It's success they can't ignore. Success that lives next door, casting shadows over their perfect little world. I text Jesus. Need your advice on a property investment. His reply comes quickly. Now you're thinking like a queen. Let's make it happen. I smile, remembering Evan's words from so long ago. I've got you, sis. Always will. No, brother, I whisper, saving the listing. I've got myself now. The box arrives on a Tuesday. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, are my father's letters. 3 of them rescued from a vintage paper collector who saw my online plea. To my dearest Sarah, I read aloud, hands trembling, on your 10th birthday. The paper crumples as my fist tightens. 3 letters. Out of dozens. The rest are lost forever, scattered by my mother's carelessness like ashes in the wind. My phone rings. Jesus. Did you see the Reddit post? He asks without preamble. Which one? The one about you. Well, about a financial freedom queen. It's trending. I open Reddit and find it easily. This woman's story of going from homeless to millionaire is incredible. 30,000 upvotes and climbing. Check the comments, Jesus says. They're overwhelming. I'm crying reading this. Please tell me she got revenge on her family. We need a book about this. The universe is giving you a sign, Jesus says. It's time to tell your story. I look at Dad's letters again. Not yet. First, I need to make sure they can't ignore it. That afternoon, I meet with a real estate agent about the Mediterranean mansion. The listing photos don't do it justice. 6 bedrooms, infinity pool, wine cellar, and a clear view of my mother's backyard. It's a competitive property, the agent warns. Multiple offers already. I open my investment portfolio app. I'll pay cash. Full asking price. Her eyes widen. I'll draw up the paperwork. That night, I write a Reddit post that will change everything. Not from my business account, but from a throwaway. I lived in my car for a year after my family betrayed me. Now I'm worth 8 figures. Here's how I did it. I detail everything. The McDonald's Wi-Fi, the gas station showers, the late-night cleaning job. How I built my empire from nothing while my family posted photos from Bali. It goes viral within hours. My phone explodes with messages, journalists, publishers, television producers. Holy shit, Jesus texts. Have you seen your follower count? Financial freedom queen has gained 100,000 followers overnight. The comment sections are chaos. Are you the Reddit girl? Please do a face reveal. We need your full story. I ignore them all and drive to my old neighbourhood. Parking across from Mum's house, I watch her water her precious roses. She looks exactly the same. Designer workout clothes, perfectly highlighted hair. My phone buzzes. A news outlet has offered 6 figures for an exclusive interview. Not yet, I whisper. Back at my apartment, I start planning. The mansion closes next month. My new product line launches next week. Everything needs to align perfectly. A message pops up from Heidi. Sarah, that Reddit post, is it you? I stare at it for a long time before replying, come over, we need to talk. An hour later, Heidi sits on my couch, eyes wide as I show her everything. The business, the investments, the mansion purchase. They have no idea, do they? She whispers. No, but they will. Aunt Jocelyn posted about Evan's baby shower yesterday. They're hosting it at their house next month. I pull up the post. Sure enough, there it is. Tagged location, just 5 minutes from my future home. Perfect timing. I smile. The mansion will be ready by then. Sarah. Heidi hesitates. What exactly are you planning? I show her the property photos. See that back fence? It connects to Mum's yard. They'll be able to see everything. The pool, the gardens, my cars in the driveway. You're going to torture them with your success? No. I pick up Dad's letters. I'm going to make them choke on it. Heidi stays late helping me plan. We schedule the moving trucks, the landscapers, the interior designers. Everything has to be perfect. After she leaves, I open my laptop and start writing, Dear Publishing House, regarding your interest in my story. The cursor blinks as I pause, thinking of Mom selling Dad's letters for pocket change, of Evan laughing at my homelessness, of all the Instagram posts tagged with fake concern. My phone pings, another Zillow notification. The mansion's status has changed to pending sale. I continue typing. I'm ready to tell my story, all of it. But first, there's something I need to do. The Reddit post hits 100,000 upvotes. The comments keep flowing. Queen, reveal yourself. We're all rooting for you. Show them what they lost. I close my laptop and walk to the window, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, my family is sleeping peacefully, unaware that their perfect world is about to shatter. Soon, I whisper, clutching Dad's letters. Very soon. The real estate office smells like coffee and ambition. I'm early for my appointment, but a man in a well-fitted suit approaches immediately. Miss Sarah, I'm Caden. His handshake is firm, genuine. I'll be handling your purchase. The Mediterranean mansion, I confirm. I'd like to close as quickly as possible. He studies me. I'm dressed casually in jeans and a blazer, not looking like someone about to drop millions in cash. Of course. Though I should mention, there are other offers. I pull out my phone, open my banking app, and slide it across the desk. His eyes widen slightly. That's quite a down payment. Not a down payment. Full purchase price, all cash. I want to close in 2 weeks. He leans back, reassessing me. May I ask what you do? I help women build empires, I say simply. Now, shall we discuss renovations? Over the next hour, Caden proves himself surprisingly insightful. He suggests improvements I hadn't considered, understands my vision without me having to explain too much. The infinity pool, he says, pointing to the blueprints. We could adjust the angle slightly, better sunset views. And better views from the neighbour's yard, I add quietly. He catches something in my tone. You know someone in the neighbourhood. You could say that. His eyes narrow thoughtfully, but he doesn't press. We tour the property that afternoon. The house is even more impressive in person. Soaring ceilings, marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the manicured grounds. The previous owners left some furniture, Caden explains. We can have it removed. No, I interrupt, running my hand along a pristine white sofa. It's perfect, clinical, expensive. Everything my mother wishes she had. Standing on the back terrace, I can see my old home through the trees. Mom's roses are in full bloom. Sarah? Caden's voice is gentle. There's a story here, isn't there? I turn to face him. Something about his direct gaze makes me want to be honest. See that house? I point through the trees. I used to live there until they threw me out, made me homeless. He's quiet for a moment. And now you're buying the biggest house in the neighbourhood. Petty, I ask. Strategic, he corrects. Though I hope it brings you peace, not just satisfaction. I laugh, a sharp, unexpected sound. Peace is overrated. I prefer power. Over the next 2 weeks, Caden becomes more than just my real estate agent. He helps coordinate contractors, suggests local designers, even recommends a car dealer for my new Rolls-Royce. Black, I specify. Like my soul. He rolls his eyes. Your soul isn't black, slightly charred maybe. We're standing in what will be my home office when my phone buzzes. An Instagram notification from Mum. Baby shower planning day. Can't wait to celebrate our first grandchild. Miyakutsteed, Caden reads over my shoulder. Ah, the neighbours. My mother and brother, I confirm. They're hosting the shower next month. Interesting timing. I show him the invitation Heidi forwarded me, complete with location details and a registry full of $1,000 baby items. They have no idea you're moving in. Not yet. I smile. But they will. The day of the shower, actually. He studies me for a long moment. You know, revenge doesn't usually look this elegant. I learned from the best. I gesture around the mansion. Nothing hurts old money more than new money next door. And after, he asks, when you've made your point? I walk to the window, looking out at my mother's house. Then I build something bigger, something that lasts longer than revenge. Like what? A legacy. One that doesn't include them. My phone buzzes again. Jesus, confirming the final wire transfer for the house. It's done, I tell Caden. The house is mine. He hands me the keys with a slight bow. Congratulations. Try not to burn the neighbourhood down. No promises. As we walk through the empty house one last time, I pause in the grand entrance. In 3 weeks, this space will be filled with guests from my brother's baby shower, all of them wondering how the homeless daughter became the queen next door. Caden? I turn to find him watching me. Thank you. For not judging. Everyone has a story, he says simply. Some are just more interesting than others. Outside, a moving truck pulls up, the first of many. The transformation is beginning. I check my phone one last time. Mum has posted another photo. Shopping for the perfect baby shower dress. Nothing but the best for our family. Oh, Mother, I whisper, pocketing my phone. You have no idea what the best looks like. Caden clears his throat. Shall we start with the furniture placement? I nod, stepping into my new kingdom. Let's make it magnificent. The baby shower invitation feels heavy in my hands. Thick cardstock with gold foil lettering. Heidi managed to get me added to the guest list through a mix-up with the party planner. Just another college friend of Evan's, she'd explained innocently. Now watching from my upstairs window, I see cars filling my mother's driveway. Designer dresses and expensive gifts parade across her lawn. My phone buzzes. Caden, ready? Almost, I reply, adjusting my outfit one last time. The white Chanel suit cost more than my mother's monthly mortgage. My hair and makeup are flawless. Subtle changes that make me look expensive rather than different. Another text from Jesus. The car is waiting. Make them remember this. I take the private elevator down to my garage where the black Rolls-Royce gleams. The driver holds the door open. Take the long way around, I instruct. I want them to hear it coming. Music and laughter drift over the fence as we circle the block. I catch glimpses of the party through the trees, champagne flowing, gifts piling up, my mother holding court in her signature red dress. Stop here, I tell the driver, just before the final turn. I can see Evan greeting guests, Callie showing off her baby bump in a flowing designer dress. The Rolls-Royce purrs as we make the final approach. Heads turn at the distinctive sound. Conversations pause. Even the music seems to dim. Who's that? I hear someone whisper as the car stops in front of my mother's house. The driver opens my door and I step out into the sunlight. For a moment, nothing happens. Then recognition hits like a wave. My mother's champagne glass slips from her hand, shattering on the patio. Sarah? Evan's voice cracks. I smile, Not warm, not cold, just perfect. Sorry I'm late. I live just next door. The silence is delicious. What are you doing here? My mother's voice tries for authority but lands on panic. I was invited. I hold up the golden invitation. Plus, I wanted to meet my new neighbours, though I suppose we've already met. Callie steps forward, confusion clear on her face. You live in the mansion? Bought it last month. All cash. I turn to my mother. The infinity pool has a lovely view of your roses. The party guests are frozen, watching the drama unfold. Some are already whispering, connecting the dots. This is inappropriate, Evan starts, but I cut him off. Is it? More inappropriate than selling your sister's belongings? Than making her homeless? You weren't homeless, he scoffs. You were just living in my car, showering at gas stations, while you planned your $90,000 wedding, more whispers. More shocked faces. Perhaps, I continue smoothly, we should continue this conversation at my house. I'm hosting an after party. Everyone's invited, of course. My mother steps forward, face tight with rage and embarrassment. You need to leave. Oh, I did leave. Then I built an empire. Would you like to see it? I gesture toward my house, where staff are already setting up for the party I knew I'd be throwing. The caterers, the bartenders, the string quartet, all visible from my mother's backyard. You can't do this, Evan hisses. I already have. I turn to address the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me next door for champagne and truth-telling. I have quite a story to share. People are already moving, drawn by curiosity and the promise of scandal. Callie looks uncertainly between her husband and the growing exodus of guests. You'll regret this, my mother warns. No, I say softly. I regret believing you loved me. Everything else. I gesture to my house, my car, my success. This is just karma with better funding. Heidi appears at my side, grinning. Need a co-host? You knew? Evan demands. Someone had to witness your cruelty, she replies. Now everyone else will too. We walk together toward my house, leaving my family standing amid their ruined party. The sound of their whispered arguments fades behind us. At my front door, I pause to look back. My mother stands rigid, watching her social circle disappear into her daughter's mansion. Evan paces, running his hands through his hair. Callie sits heavily in a garden chair, fat and fluttering against her face. Ready for the grand finale? Heidi asks. I think of Dad's letters, sold for pocket change, of cold nights in my car, of Instagram posts designed to hurt. Actually, I say, I think this is just the beginning. The string quartet starts playing as guests flood my home. Their gasps of appreciation echo through marble halls. Champagne pops. Stories start circulating. And there, framed in my entryway, is a single photograph. Me, sleeping in my car, taken the night my family threw me away. Beneath it, a simple caption. Rock bottom became the foundation on which I built my empire. The party is just beginning, and revenge tastes like expensive champagne. Is it true? A guest asks, champagne glass trembling in her hand. You're really our financial freedom queen. The rooftop terrace is filled with curious partygoers, all eager to hear the story. Below, I can see my mother and Evan still standing in their yard, watching their social circle migrate to my domain. It's true, I confirm, though that's just one part of the story. Tell us everything, another woman urges. We've all read the Reddit post. I catch Heidi's eye across the crowd. She nods encouragingly. Well, I begin, it started with a cardboard box and an empty room. The story pours out, not in anger, but in calculated precision. Every detail lands like a perfectly aimed arrow. When I describe the gas station showers, women dab at their eyes. When I mention the McDonald's Wi-Fi, phones emerge to check my business accounts. Your own mother did this, someone gasps. Ask her yourself, I say, gesturing to where Mom now stands in my doorway, trying to look dignified. She's right there. All heads turn. The silence is devastating. Sarah, she starts, her society smile cracking. You're making quite a scene. No, Mother, I'm making history. There's a difference. Evan appears behind her, pulling Callie by the hand. This is ridiculous. You're ruining our baby shower. Like you ruined my life? I take a slow sip of champagne. Consider it a gift. Now your child will know exactly what kind of family they're born into. You ungrateful little... Mom steps forward but freezes as phones start recording. Careful, I warn. My story's already trending. Want to go viral? Callie breaks away from Evan, approaching me with tears in her eyes. I didn't know about any of it. They said you were just being difficult. They say a lot of things, Callie. Truth isn't their strong suit. A commotion at the door draws everyone's attention. Jesus walks in, commanding the room with his presence. Sarah, he calls out. The publishers are getting impatient. Shall we tell them yes? Mom's face pales. Publishers? For my book, I explain. The full story, every detail, every Instagram post, every cruel word. You can't, Evan sputters. It'll ruin us. Should have thought of that before making me sleep in a Walmart parking lot. Heidi steps forward, addressing the crowd. I was there. I saw it all. Every word Sarah's saying is true. The whispers grow louder. Mum's carefully curated social circle is crumbling before her eyes. Perhaps, she says tightly, we should discuss this privately. Like you discussed selling Dad's letters privately. The words slice through the air. 50 cents each, wasn't it? She stumbles back as if struck. For the first time, real emotion cracks her perfect mask. I never meant... Save it. I turn to the guests. The bar is open, the food is endless, and yes, I'm taking investments in my next venture. Jesus here can provide details. The crowd buzzes with excitement, completely ignoring my family now. Money, after all, speaks louder than blood. Caden appears at my side, watching Evan guide our mother to a chair. You okay? Never better. I slip off my heels, letting my feet touch the cool marble. Though I'm not done yet. The book, among other things. I smile as another group of guests arrives, local business leaders drawn by the scandal and opportunity. I'm thinking of buying the office building where I used to clean toilets. Jesus overhears and laughs. Now that's what I call a hostile takeover. Mom's head snaps up at the sound of business being discussed. She's always been able to smell money and power. Sarah, she calls out, desperation creeping into her voice. We should talk. About the future. About family. Family? I walk over, stopping just out of reach. You mean the family that posted photos from Bali while I starved? That family? Evan stands. We can fix this. No, I say softly. You can't, but you can watch me soar and know you could have been part of it. I turn back to my guests, raising my voice. Who wants to hear about my next investment opportunity? The crowd surges forward, leaving my family forgotten in their wake. Power shifts like water, flowing toward money and success. Come on, Heidi whispers to them. I'll show you out. As they shuffle toward the door, I dip my toe in the infinity pool, its edge seeming to spill into the sunset. To growth, I call out, raising my glass. To growth, the crowd echoes. Mom pauses at the door, looking back one last time. Our eyes meet across the terrace. Goodbye, Mother, I mouth silently. She turns away, shoulders slumped, finally understanding what she threw away. The party continues as night falls, but I'm already planning tomorrow. The book deal, the new investments, the empire that's still growing. After all, revenge isn't a moment, it's a lifestyle. The book contract sits unopened on my desk while Jesus pours tea. Dawn light streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows, catching the steam rising from our cups. You haven't signed, he observes. I'm thinking. About. Whether telling the whole story will bring peace or just feed the fire. He settles into the chair across from me. Sometimes fire is necessary for growth. My phone buzzes. A text from Heidi. They're selling their house, moving across town. I set the phone down, something hollow opening in my chest. They're running away. Or accepting defeat, Jesus suggests. You've won, Sarah. Have I? I walk to the window. Mom's roses are wilting, untended. No cars in their driveway. No perfectly curated Instagram posts in weeks. A knock at the door interrupts my thoughts. Caden enters, carrying coffee and files. The office building paperwork is ready, he says, and you have visitors. Evan and Callie stand in my foyer, looking small against the marble columns. She's showing more now, 7 months along. 5 minutes, I tell them. Talk. Evan steps forward. We're having a girl. The words hit harder than expected. A niece I'll never know. Congratulations. We want her to know her aunt, Callie says softly. The real you. The strong you. The aunt you helped make homeless. The aunt who built an empire, she corrects. The one who never gave up. Evan pulls something from his jacket, a wrinkled envelope. I found this in Mom's things while packing. It's Dad's last letter, the one she didn't sell. My hands shake as I take it. I was awful, he continues. Worse than awful. I was Mom's puppet, so desperate for her approval that I forgot how to be a brother. Where is she now? Moving in with Aunt Linda. She's different. Broken maybe, but maybe that's what needed to happen. I open the letter carefully. Dad's handwriting fills the page. My dearest Sarah, remember that your worth isn't measured by others' acceptance, but by your own resilience. You have always been stronger than you knew. The words blur as tears threaten. I can't undo what we did, Evan says, but I can try to be better. For my daughter. For you. Jesus and Caden watch silently as I fold the letter back into its envelope. Your daughter, I say finally. What will you name her? Callie touches her belly. We were thinking Sarah, if that's okay. A laugh escapes me, sharp, surprised. You want to name her after the aunt you helped destroy? After the aunt who rose from destruction, Evan corrects. The one who built herself from nothing. The one I hope she grows up to be like. I walk to my desk and pick up the book contract. You understand this is still happening? All of it. The story, the truth, the consequences. They nod. And you understand I'm not coming back. Not to the family. Not to the way things were. We're not asking you to, Callie says. We're asking you to help build something new. Something better. I sign the contract with a steady hand. Then let's see what rises from these ashes. Later, after they leave, I sit by the infinity pool with Jesus and Caden. You're smiling, Caden observes. Am I? It's different than your revenge smile, he says. Softer. Jesus nods approvingly. Sometimes the best revenge is letting go while standing your ground. My phone pings. A notification that the office building purchase is complete. Another ping. The book deal announcement is trending. What now? Caden asks. I think of Dad's letter, of little Sarah growing in Callie's belly, of all the women who follow my story looking for hope. Now? I stand up, kicking off my shoes. Now we build something that lasts longer than revenge. Something that helps other women rise. And your family? They can watch from a distance, I decide. And maybe, someday, they'll understand that this was never about destroying them. It was about building me. I dive into the pool, letting the cool water wash away the last embers of anger. When I surface, the sunset paints the sky in colours of beginning, not ending. My empire isn't complete. My story isn't finished. But for the first time since that rainy night in my car, I'm not building from rage or pain. I'm building because that's who I am now. A builder, a creator, a queen. And queens don't look back at the kingdoms they've outgrown. They build new ones. Better ones. The kind that welcome daughters home.